Want to enjoy free-to-air digital TV with crystal clear quality? Here's how to get started with Signet. Step 1. If you have a smart TV, you're good to go. If not, get yourself a digital set-top box. Next, connect your set-top box to an aerial and the aerial to your TV. Use RCA cables, yellow for video, red and white for audio, or simply plug in an HDMI cable for high-quality sound and picture. Now, do an auto search on your TV. Just follow the prompts on the screen. And that's it. You're now tuned in to Signet. Sit back and enjoy a wide range of free-to-air digital channels. For technical inquiries, call the Signet hotline on 0770-572-656.
Sende kuita mama.
Kwa nini ilifanyika?
Kama Cindy angeniita, Elijah angekuwa na sisi.
Tumefanikiwa kupata 80,000.
Basema 8 ama 80,000.
Bwana Elijah. Yes. Kwa makini.
Naweza kuwa naitiwa nini huko sasa?
Ni juu ya jina.
Hallelujah! Atike! Hii ni mambo ya Mungu.
Tabu na kuangana temptations mob. Halafu mademu vibaya.
Maajabu.
Nani alikuwa kwa mtego?
Na nani?
Good morning. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya on this beautiful Monday. Coming to work, I just saw the horizon. It looked beautiful. That is one thing that I liked about it. A clear signal that it's going to be a good week starting on a high. And of course, it's the 15th day of September 2025. Good morning. I hope you had a great weekend. It's Monday. Let's do this once again like we never did. Exactly. And please talk to us on whichever part of this universe you're watching us from. Tell us how your week was, how your weekend has been, and now what are you looking forward to as we start a new week. My name is Victor Lo. You can find me at Victor Lo on social media, at KBC Channel 1 on this 15th day of September. A lot is going to be happening. Last week we talked about the Kenya Kwanza 3 years on, and today we are going to continue that discussion and put the last nail. All right, bottle it up. There's something else I wanted to say, Vivian, and you know what I wanted to say? I wanted to bottle it up today. Good morning, Vivian.
Good morning, Victor.
Looking great. Look at the way my
You missed the memo, by the way. We are in grey.
Yeah.
You missed that memo.
Yeah. Was it sent on WhatsApp? Let me check.
Check if it went to your
I
spam.
have been offline since last week on Monday.
Let's just say we were in the same spirit.
We were in spirit.
Could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a beautiful Monday morning, just as Victor has mentioned. It feels good to be here. And as always, thank you for starting off your day right here with us on Good Morning. Before I get to talk about what is happening or what I'll be tackling today on Family Check, we have to give it. We're doing it proper in Tokyo, Japan for the World Athletics Championships that are ongoing. We have 2 gold medals so far, and we have several of our athletes who've gotten to book themselves a space in the finale, in the final. So that's a good thing.
Perez,
yeah.
That was a good finish.
It was a good run.
It was a great finish.
Absolutely.
Vivian, can you run for your life? Even Mike, can you even run for your life?
Well, if...
it depends.
It depends. I can try.
It depends.
But oh well, they did such an amazing job over there, and I love the the sportsmanship that was with our athletes, you know. For example, when we had Faith Kipyego on just, you know, while she finished the first, and then there was the second Kenyan, I think her name is Dorcas Ewoi, and just the fact that it seemed like Faith was cheering her on, even as they were still running. It was like she was telling her, keep up, keep up.
So can we still say that we are not losing faith, we still have faith?
Of course, we do still have a lot of it in store, and we are hoping,
if you know what I'm saying.
We are hoping for the best come the finals, even with that pun intended right there with Victor. But anyway, today being a Monday, we have Family Check right here on the show, and we'll be discussing about a matter that is quite not spoken about in it's spoken with really, really harsh tones, and that is on matters suicide. We will be breaking the silence on suicide, and the question we are posing you, what is the best way to address the topic of suicide? What is the best way to address the topic of suicide? How do we go about it? The number is 0716 103 301, 0716 103 301. There is the question of the day. What is the best way to address the topic of suicide? You can start letting us know what your thoughts are on that. And just as you also get to answer that question, it is only right to give the statistics of how things are in Kenya at the moment, matters suicide, and it is quite alarming because according to the World Health, 4 people die of suicide every single day. Every single day, there's 4 people somewhere in Kenya who get to die by suicide. So definitely, this is should be looked into, and that is the reason why I'll be having several people on set with me today, beginning with Clement Kemboi. Clement Kemboi is a senior human rights officer at KNCHR. We also have Amisa Rash, the neuropsychologist and a counseling psychologist, as well as the founder and executive director, Nivisha Foundation. And finally, we'll be joined by Cleo Panjiru, who is a counseling psychologist. Only right for us to have psychologists right here on the show and try to tackle that particular topic, as you also get to be part of this via the number that I have just shared, which is our WhatsApp number. So I'll see you at exactly 9 a.m. for that conversation. Mike?
Indeed, you know, as you have put it, 4 is a very big number. And even one life lost is a number too high.
Yeah.
Life is precious, and we are looking forward to hearing your contribution to the topic of today during Family Check. Welcome to the program. Before I hand you over to Victor Olo, let us have the quote for today, and it's a quote by Winston Churchill. You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. You will never reach your destination if you stop to throw stones at every dog that barks. Think about that, and think about the goals that you have in life, and think of the best way to achieve them, regardless of distractions that may come along the way. Good morning, Victor.
That's a powerful one.
Yes.
Actually, how would you basically apply that quote in a day-to-day life? Because you can imagine you want to get to destination X.
Yes.
And of course, there are so many dogs. Some of them are not so fierce or ready to attack you. But you can imagine if you want to listen or you want to get scared to every dog that barks, you know, you won't even get to your third step.
Yeah,
you
that's true. Actually, that quote is quite literal as well as figurative.
Yes.
Because it's just as it says. If you keep standing to throw stones at every dog, if we look at it literally, when are we going to get to your destination?
Some of them are actually scared of you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
You don't need to. And figuratively, I mean, in life throws you so many curveballs.
Yes.
And if you choose to just concentrate on these curveballs that are coming your way, then you won't get to the intended destination that you may be having. So as much as there's a lot happening in the world, there's a lot happening in the country, there's a lot happening in your life. Just stay put and, you know, have that particular goal that you have and keep following that goal, and don't stop each time, you know, you have something hindering you.
Simply put, keep your eyes on the prize.
On the ball.
Yes.
Talk of the ball, Manu. How are you? Talk of the ball.
Naweza jificha wapi hapa?
Hatujasahau.
Oh boy.
Hatujasahau.
I thought you were going to let that slide.
You know,
you didn't have to.
Last week, when...
Can I call Regina?
It's not even...
Director, I want to call Regina. Live on
What
air.
time is it? Regina must be up at this time.
Just continue. Mike, I want to call Regina just to find out how she's doing.
Oh my goodness.
Probably she's not feeling fine.
You know, last week after FIFA shared the photo of Ogam on their social media, somebody said maybe Arsenal need to sign him so that they can be scoring more goals.
Yeah. we need to. Regina is not picking up calls. I'm trying to call Regina here. She's not picking up calls, and she knows why.
I wish I can just text her and tell her, no, do not pick up the call.
Yes.
Do not.
Can you hear the phone ringing?
Do not pick up the calls.
Regina
But
is an early riser.
it's been quite something for Manchester United fans.
Yes.
Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Tunapitia mambo mengi sana. We are going through a lot of problems.
I don't know what was happening. 3 goals. And do you know what position you are?
No.
Continue holding that position 14 where you were last season. Please, just that's a very good corner.
It's quite
I
embarrassing.
look forward to the day that Regina will be here to defend her.
She's not picked.
She didn't pick the call. I think she knows what's coming.
I told
She
her,
knows
Regina, I'll
what's
call you
coming.
tomorrow in the morning.
She
Please, right now,
knows
let's just
what
watch
is
football. She's
Yeah.
not picked. But Vivian, we sympathize with you. I mean, that's you ni kazi ya wazungu, si ndio?
I'm a Harambee Stars fan, in case you didn't know.
You live to fight another day.
Arsenal fans, we finish, we shoot as much as we want.
Yes.
Life goes on. Yeah, we gave them 3. Manu are given 3. How?
Can you get into the newspapers?
Yeah.
On the front page of the Daily Nation, I saw that coming. On the front page of the Daily Nation. Thank you, Vivian and Mike. Okay. Talk to them later on, and they'll give you some kind of insightful debate there later on. But okay, so let me take you through the front page of the local daily, starting with the Daily Nation. Of course, on the front page, the men who control multi-billion state system. The men who control multi-billion shillings state systems. That is also the front page of the Daily Nation here. But still, on a good note, Perez Chipchirchir, the world champ, she actually outpaced Ethiopia's Tigst Assefa to win gold in the Tokyo World Championships and Athletic Championship in Japan. And of course, that is one of the key highlights of the weekend. The ladies doing some great work there in Japan. And of course, the main story here on the front page of the local dailies, this Daily Nation, is the men who control multi-billion shillings. Let me just give you a quick shot on that. The men who control multi-billion shillings state. The question is about ownership of critical public systems such as e-citizen and electronic platforms for health and procurement, alleged by auditors and MPs to be controlled by private entities despite government denial, and is now increasingly becoming under scrutiny, informed by data, security concerns, and the vast sums of money involved. That is what is here on the front page of the Daily Nation. Banks face huge losses over fake titles. Banks face huge losses over fake titles. A very concerning, great matter there of concern. And of course, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, TSC sets new rules for transfer of teachers. Again, something that we'll be talking about probably later in the week on how this is going to affect the transfer of teachers. The president met the teachers across the country 2-3 days ago at State House in Nairobi, and now there is that new rule set for the transfer of teachers. New DCI team takes over lawyers' murder probe. Some of the suspects who were apprehended last week were released on Friday night when DCI said that they were not able to link them with the gruesome murder of the city lawyer. And so, who are these three people on what the Daily Nation would call lucrative deals? One of them is Abdullahi Sheikh, Convergence Network Solutions shareholder. And there is another gentleman here there with a silhouette. I don't know whether the photo has not been found yet, but that is what I have, the silhouette. It's called Tahun bin Zaid Al Nanhan, one of the owners of Apero Limited. And finally, James Ayugi, founder of Webmasters Limited. The three gentlemen who have been featured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Very quickly on the inner pages, here we have got scholar, schema victim, the many faces of Matthew Mbobu. You can take a look at that story. And according to Daily Nation, well, the Daily Nation has outlined and given some figures there, probably one of the issues in contention. But yes, we'll talk about that later on. Mbobu murder, new team takes over probe as 3 suspects freed who were apprehended over last week. And now, again, the issue of Kwanza, where this says that tracing new holy wilderness of death. Remember Shakahola, and now Kwanza is also making headlines. The men controlling public systems with billions of shillings. This is the story fleshed on page 4 and page 5 of the Daily Nation. Auditor General and several governance experts have sounded an alarm over the control of digital systems by private companies. That is what I have here. The Ruto administration has contracted automated systems to improve service delivery across different sectors of the economy, but has yet to gain full control despite spending billions of taxpayers' money. That is what I have here on the Daily Nation. But even as we continue that one, allow me to bring in Crispus, Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a governance expert, a gentleman who is not new to Jerusalem. Crispus, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Happy to be here.
Good to see you once again. How is Kenya doing?
Not bad. I think 3 years
yes.
Into Ruto's administration, we have a lot to interrogate.
Yes.
Mix bags of fortune, hits and misses. But I think so far so good.
So far so good.
Yeah.
Out of 10?
Out of 10, I think we are still approaching expectation, probably 4 out of 10.
Okay, I thought you were going to play safe. Approaching expectation. Okay, so that's, we are almost half the mark. Okay,
yeah.
And of course, Hesbon Omolo, who is a council member of ISPAC, FCPA Hesbon Omolo. Good morning, Hesbon.
Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Bon.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Again, 3 years down the line into the 4th one. What a journey.
Yeah, it's been a tough journey.
Yes.
A journey full of many pitfalls, challenges here and there.
Yes.
But in the totality of it, I would give a very favorable score. It's akin to a child living in a harsh environment.
Yes.
And managing to score 40%, as it says. I would give a 60% given the environment.
Wow. 60. That's above average, by far. So in the next 2 years, we'll hit 100 or 80.
I think subject to 1 or 2 things, and I think 2 critical issues have been a challenge to this government. One is that the country was just getting out of the COVID season when this government came into being. But 2, we've had a very polarized political space with a lot of demonstrations, and that has hindered a lot of this government's ability to deliver on its promises. Remember, every single year since 2023, we've been having massive protests. First over cost of living, then we had taxation pushback, and until just recently, we now have a semblance of stability. But also, it's coming at a point in time when the new election is, the election of 2027 is coming full circle.
Fast approaching.
So the environment has not been very, very conducive.
I don't know what Professor is thinking about. Professor Monel Mutisia, educationist, economist, and development expert. Prof, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
In the other side of the world, we say, Wamukata.
There's a view.
Ah, very nice.
Yes.
Out of his 40%, 60%, what about you?
No, thank you very much, Victor, for giving us this opportunity.
Karibu.
And I think this is a platform where we tell Kenyans as it is. And, at the end of the day, we'll be looking at numbers, because numbers never lie. I will give the government a very favorable score, given, and I'm basing this on two things. One, of course, the commitments that the government made in 2022 for this period of 5 years. And number two is the global economic dynamics which are affecting, or which are affecting every other country across. And with that, I give the government 70%.
70. 40, 60, 70.
Based on all these factors. But of course, looking at the challenge that we're facing, if you go out there, outside the country, you will hear that people talking about Kenya, rising, Kenya moving forward, Kenya growing.
Yes.
If you compare ourselves with those other countries, you realize that we are in a very nice country.
40.
Therefore, of course, we look at those dynamics and make sure that at least we align our thought process to ensure that we give the government the right score. And I'm saying this.
Let's take a break.
Give it back. I'm a professor, and when you take students through a process, you don't give a first-year student a fourth-year exam. Thank you.
That's deep. We'll be right back with more.
If it's an I like that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Siende kuita mama. Kwani nini ilifanyika?
Kama Cindy angeniita, Elijah angekuwa na sisi.
Tumefanikiwa kupata 80,000.
Basema 8 ama 80,000.
Bwana Elijah. Kwa makini.
Yanaweza kuwa naitiwa nini huku sasa?
Ni juu ya jina.
Hallelujah! Atike! Hii ni mambo ya Mungu.
Sababu nakuanga na temptations mob, halafu mademu vibaya.
Maajabu.
Nani alikuwa kwa mtego?
Na nani?
Are you ready for the next big thing in tech? Well, we'll spotlight Kenya's brightest young minds, game-changing startups, and breakthrough technology that are shaping our future. From AI and robotics to sustainable futures, we bring you the stories behind the scenes. KBC Channel 1. Remember, tech starts here.
Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so it's now 5 past 7 a.m. It's a good Monday, so let's get to work. Okay, so on the front page of the Standard newspaper, I gave you the front page of the Daily Nation. On the front page of the Standard, the housing bribe, that is also on the front page of the Standard, had the housing bribe launched with fanfare as the silver bullet to Kenya's housing crisis. Despite protests over salary reductions with no direct benefits, the affordable housing program is fast turning into President William Ruto's political carrot. His latest pledge to hand teachers 20% of the units has raised fresh questions on whether there are any rules on how these houses are allocated. That is what's on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And then still on the front page, Shah staring at slow death as the Director of Criminal Investigations launches a probe into 31 hospitals of fraudulent medical claims. Government insiders fear poor implementation is crippling programs, I beg your pardon, once hailed as a lifeline for ordinary Kenyans. That is on the front page of the Standard. Of course, a couple of issues we'll be taking a look shortly. And finally, on the front page of the Star, 3 years later, Ruto's key projects face hurdles. Basically, that is our subject of discussion today. President promised reforms, but challenges abound. And now, but I have to give it, gentlemen, the ladies did well in Japan. We still have golds. I think we can give them a clap. We have our own very well. You get it?
Yes.
So,
first ladies, all the sports personalities
I stand corrected.
across.
Thank you. I stand corrected. Very good. %.
Yes.
Substance shit.
For example, if we take, for example, the housing program. The housing program was an initiative, number one, geared to deliver 250,000 houses per year. So far, the houses that are complete are around 300,000.
Okay, let me help you with this, Star. There you have it on the front page.
Yes.
Okay.
The houses that are complete are around 3,000. We have ongoing projects not completed, over 160,000 houses ongoing across the country. And in this first administration, their first term, this term, they were supposed to deliver close to 1 million houses.
Yes.
So definitely the government was not to deliver all of them. So the others were to be developed by the private sector. So how do we achieve that? One of the areas that this program was supposed to impact is try to make even construction of houses by the private sector is affordable. So it was supposed to spur an industry in the construction sector. For example, the cost of construction materials would go down. Since this administration took over, yes, we've had affordable housing kick off. But the bag of cement has gone up. The cost of steel has gone up. Fuel has gone up. Those are very key inputs that go into the construction sector, which has made it even very hard for the private sector to participate. For example, also the access to credit. We are not able to see this uptick by mortgage borrowers who are going to banks to borrow money to construct or build their own homes. So that is a challenge I feel the government has failed to achieve, because it is not the business. The government today is the biggest developer, and that was not the intention. The government is supposed to provide an environment where we are going to build a couple of big developers competing favorably in an environment where cost of production is low, the business environment is favorable, there is transparency in how procurement and processes are being done, so that everybody can be able to participate. So yes, the program has started, but has it achieved what it is required? Let's go to health sector. Yes, we were promised a reformed health system, but were we told it's going to cost 104 billion? Were we told that by the first year of it being rolled out, we'll be having leakages in the tunes of 10 billion shillings, 24 billion shillings? Were we told that we will still be dealing with the issues of hospitals not being paid?
Yeah.
If the health system was to be reformed, in my own opinion, we required some boldness and innovativeness. We are not in the business of supplying patients to hospitals and healthcare workers. As a government, you are in the business of preventing your people from getting sick, providing the right nutrition, providing the proper quality of life, making sure that even those service providers are doing it at an affordable cost, that there is available services both in private and in public, so that we are not, there's no form of monopoly, there's no exploitation. That is what a government is supposed to do when it comes to health sector. But right now, government is the biggest health provider. There are huge leakages that we are seeing in this system. There is a system that has been brought. It's not very innovative as we thought. There is no policy that we can innovative in that sector. The same issues that we complained NHIF about, of high cost, of leakages, and we are not seeing an end to these things. Let's go to food security. God has blessed us with good rains. We have maize production that is doing very well. we have the fertilizer subsidy. But have we increased a variety of food production in the country? Are we only reliant on maize as a staple food? We have seen cases where rice is still being imported when our farmers are have enough. We have seen cases where wheat is being imported when our farmers have enough. We are still having sugar being imported when our farmers are still struggling with being paid. So we need to address this issue in a way that we have a complete departure from where we have been for the last 20 years.
I want to give Hesbon his time also to give foundation to his 60% rating. Hesbon, substance sheet yours as well.
I think just like my brother said, he has reasons why he doubts a few things.
Yes.
But I would start by economic stabilization. How far has this government done in terms of stabilizing the economy? We've had the Kenya shilling hovering at 160. That is now stable at about 130 to the dollar. Our forex reserve is at an all-time high. That means there's something being done correct by our national treasury. Then we have quite a number of parameters. Our GDP has continued to grow at a rate way above what is in the global space, 3.3%. We are way above even the African average. So we are doing very well on that front. Almost every other sector, if you look at how it has performed economically, you will see that there is a bit of progress. Now that is one. Now the other issue was we had promises around affordable housing, like he says. Has Consult just a few days ago gave a report on the performance of housing market globally. Kenya is ranked highest in the African continent here, and globally, our return on investment in that space is very, very high. People are flocking here to invest in the housing sector. What may not apply appropriately when you look at the housing in totality is that the affordable bit, which is at the common man's level, there is no strong uptake of private sector, which is understandable. Remember, housing is one of the basic needs of a human being, decent housing. And therefore, the government cannot afford, in a country that is developing like Kenya, to leave that to be private sector driven. If you do that, you will have a nation that is very expensive. And therefore, the government must step in and ensure that we have ability to drive our key sectors of our economy by affording it cheap labor. And you can only have cheap labor if housing is cheap, because the people who are to work for you must reside somewhere. So I think the government has done well, bringing down the slums in this city of Nairobi. You can see what has happened in some of those slums. Very happy faces. I saw some articles on TV, some news showing people moving into units they did not imagine they would move to. And even though they're slightly expensive, they would say they would pay more in the informal settlement without it being clear. You know, there are certain hidden cost of living that people don't understand. Somebody living in Karen would pay very little for a 20-liter of jerrycan. If you were to open your tap, fill that 20-liter jerrycan and see how much the city council will charge you. An equivalent amount of water in the slum would cost close to 50, 60 shillings, which is not realistic. That is poverty tax. So when you build this affordable housing, you are giving access to pipe water into these houses, you are giving access to electricity, you are avoiding a lot of other things that these people go through on a daily basis. So I think in terms of housing, the government has done well. But remember, the journey towards actualizing that affordable housing, we had a lot of tiff and tough around the law, the courts had invalidated. So there was a lot of delay that you cannot blame the government for, because there has to be the legality aspect of it, there has to be the law that has to enable it. So I think in the full construct of that, then you say the government has done well, and therefore I give it a good score in that space. Now let's go to healthcare. We have...
Can I get the Prof's insight as well? Then we'll clump them back together. All right. You don't mind. Okay, Prof. Substance shift to 70% rating.
No, thank you very much, Victor. Well, I'm aligned with some of the thought processes from my fellow panelists. And as I said in the beginning, as a teacher, when you set exams, you don't give a first-year exam. A first-year exam, a fourth-year exam. Or when, because of dynamics that were not expected, when examinations get too hard, we have what we call normalization of scores to get, to bring about fairness, because of these different, difficult levels. In 2022, the government committed to do a lot. And in economics, you talk about ceteris paribus, and all factors held constant. And looking at what has happened in this country over those 3 years, the government has done the best. And comparing that with what is happening in many other countries, we are far much ahead of most of the things that we committed. As Esmond did say, economic-wise, we have sort of stabilize our inflation. I think, over the last 3 years, we've cut inflation by 50%, from around 9% to 4%. And this is what we see with the dollar, with the cost of living and so on and so forth, which, of course, the president talks about very much by saying that instead of subsidizing consumption, we should focus on subsidizing production. This is what happens in advanced economies. And, we've done that with the agricultural sector, where we see, of course, fertilizer going down by more than 50%. Yeah. And, of course, making sure that this is accessible to most of the farmers. I saw the CS of agriculture saying that now we expect a bumper harvest of around 70 million bags of maize moving forward. We need to contextualize all this to say the following. One, we came, this government took over during a very hard time. Of course, you go back to COVID, but then you come to where we are in 2022 and see the steps that we made over those 3 years. And we appreciate that we are in the right direction. And as I said, numbers don't lie. Engineer just said that, of course, we have built houses, affordable. When I did my PhD back in 2012, my focus was Kibera slums. We are seeing Kibera slums being transformed into a city of the future, where before people will come here and profile Kibera as a failed, a failed space in this country. A failed space because, we were building a city of slums, where, many of these slums were mushrooming across. And NGOs would come here to use our case to go and fundraise and, get money to come and to say that they are trying to assist us, support those those families who do not have toilets because they only access flying toilets around. And so looking at that and looking at what other advanced countries are doing or have done before. If you go to China, you go to Korea, you go to Singapore, you go to Malaysia, the housing sector is a basic need. Okay. And they have put all these to make sure that, of course, other sectors like health sector are taken care of. Because then if you live in a safe environment, a clean environment, the issues of health that have been raised will not be a common challenge that we've seen over the last several years. Number two is around now the universal health care, which has been mentioned. And certainly, of course, there are issues. Why? Because we have a new system. When you test a new system, you are bound to get challenges, you are bound to get gaps. But until you get it to the level where now you stabilize everything, we must walk through and support one another to ensure that these gaps are sealed. And, go back to the history of when Obama was the president. We had the Obamacare. It had all these issues. At the end of the day, the system was stabilized. And today, even when successful presidents come in and want to bring down that system because of politics, you realize, no, it is working for the people, and the people don't want to have that changed. When you look at the numbers of this, shift, you realize that we are almost at around 26 million, people who have already enrolled into the system. Number two, the government has already, employed more than 100,000, community health workers. Yes. Why is the government doing this? Because we know for an economy to grow to a first world, health becomes a fundamental, sector that, the government must invest in to ensure that we have a healthier, population. Yes. So I look at these numbers and I say that, if we have moved from where we are to 26 million, subscribers to the SHIF, or 100,000 community health workers, bringing health, services closer to Mwananchi, then that is a plus. And in that, I look at William Ruto and I say that your government has exceeded expectations. Okay.
Hesbon, what about inflation? I mean, when you look at the central bank, it has got some mixed record of inflation. Is there any chance of it stabilizing and perhaps being better for Wanjiku at the end of the day?
I think inflation has continued to shift based on several emerging challenges from every corner. But by and large, if it's moved from 9.6, at some point it went to 3.3. And then there are also global shocks that have an effect when the entire supply chain globally is interrupted, like when we had the war between Iraq and Iran and Israel. You realize that then even the fear of moving commodities along the Strait of Hormuz affects the entire movement of commodities. So that, in one way or the other, will affect the cost of some of our products, including oil. So definitely, that has an effect. But again, our cyclic season of rains, sometimes the rain patterns are good, and therefore you're able to have most of our basic commodities, our food items that feed the basket of that we look at when we look at inflation, is positively impacted. But then over time, certain things also change. So it is possible to stabilize, but according to this government, the prayer was to have it below 5%.
Yeah.
That is being achieved, and I don't see any likelihood of it going beyond that. Of course, the government must still keep tabs on quite a number of things, especially as we move towards 2026, as the campaign season comes full circle. There's likelihood that money can come into this country from unknown quarters that may drive certain things in a wrong direction. Remember, we are also surrounded by countries at war. So in terms of even keeping our borders safe and secure around some of these things, is very difficult, because you can imagine the entire stretch we have with Somali. You can imagine the challenges in South Sudan. And we are a haven where those who have problems with their countries get into. So there are several parameters that may affect how we look at our inflation. But by and large, there are strong signs around the agricultural sector, which is a backbone. It contributes the highest part of our GDP. If that sector is managed well, you've managed the first bit of it. If you manage the issue of cost of oil, which is a key driver and a key contributor to inflation, we are in a stable space. If you manage the energy cost generally, then we are in a space where we can manage some of these things. And then go to the disposable income that the common man has. I think that has been challenged largely because of the deductions we've had under Social Health Authority, under affordable housing, and also the enhanced saving that the common man takes to NSSF on a monthly basis. I think those are the hidden aspects that reduce the disposable income, so that at the end of the month, your take-home is reduced, and therefore you feel you cannot afford the commodities, even if the prices remained the same. And therefore, we must be deliberate in trying to grow the economy in a manner that allows enterprises, both in private sector, to be able to increase what they can give employees as take-home, but even government to be able to adjust the wages for the employees. For that to happen, Kenya must also collect taxes that are commensurate with the wealth that is being created in our economy. We are only collecting about 15% of our GDP as taxes. We have exhausted the legroom of additional taxes. You do that, the citizens rebel. So the only way is to have tax collection efficiency and also control our cost of doing business. And therefore, this is where I would also want to plead, even with our three arms of government. There are certain things that are good for the country. EGP, for example, would help us save a lot of money, which can then be moved or pushed to targeted areas that would help the country. If you can save close to 40% of what you are spending on government services, you're able to redirect those resources towards the critical areas that need support, the areas you need to boost. If it is the SME, if you can save 300 billion, it means you're not going to the market to borrow that money. You are redirecting the financial services sector to address what my friend here was mentioning, that access to credit to the private sector is constrained because government is over-borrowing to address the challenge of the public debt. So I think that if we're able to look at that space well, and I think generally the government has done well, I don't foresee our inflation going beyond 5%. If anything, it should oscillate between where it is now, and probably even 3%. 3% would be a deal.
When you talk about 40%, coming back to you, Crispus, and based on the figures he's given on inflation, does that really reflect on what's on Wanjiku's pocket?
You see, one of the challenges many Kenyans are facing is a disconnect between the numbers that are being shared around in terms of inflation, stabilization of the economy, cost of living. In terms of translating that to our day-to-day life, there's a mismatch. For example, if you had 1,000 shillings 2022 and you have the same 1,000 shillings today, what can it be able to buy you that time and today? Let's take, for example, by the time you reach this hour, this morning, there are certain things you've consumed. For example, you've done you've used soap, toothpaste, you've taken some form of breakfast, you've driven your car here, you've looked at your phone, you've consumed data. Those are things that we are consuming today. But in terms of the inflationary statistics that they are basing on, probably it's in maize, tomato, viazi, things that you'll use at the end of the day. So therefore, we need to appreciate that the way we measure inflation in terms of government assessing inflation and the way we measure as a common man are totally two different things. You take a matatu coming to work, you probably find maybe the journey you spent 20 shillings, now it is 30 shillings. Yeah. But government says inflation is still okay. But where you are paying 20 shillings and now you are paying 30, that's a rise of 50%. It cannot compare to the 5% or 3% they are discussing. When fuel was about to go down, they increased our fuel levy of 7 shillings. It was sliding. There was a VAT that was increased from 8 to 16%. So all these are contributing to the ability of the common man enjoying these numbers that we are being told about. So the numbers look very good because they are measured on variables that are not relating to the common man. Yet the reality on the ground is that, number one, you've taken a lot of my money in terms of taxes. So my ability to consume has been constrained. My ability to support many other Kenyans that I support. A paycheck in an urban environment like Nairobi, Nakuru, Kisumu supports so many people up country. You find that 1,000 you send somebody, that's a very impactful thing back in the village. But now if I'm not able to send that 1,000, what happens? That tip I give an askari, that tip I gave a waiter, that small contribution I make helps to spur the economy. When I don't have that contribution, what effect does it have to the economy? What effect does it have to the general health of the economy of the country? There are many Kenyans who are not even in that tax bracket, but they rely on people who are in the tax bracket. Yes. So when those people are being constrained, they are not able to support them, then it has a impact in terms of those people's livelihood. So we need to be able to connect ourselves, to align ourselves between these numbers you're mentioning here and the reality on the ground.
Okay, so how is the government tackling the big challenges? That is a big question when it comes to economy and, you know, the Kenya Kwanza administration manifesto in general. How is the government tackling the big challenges? I want us to handle that when we circle back after this break. Time flies so fast. It's already 7:30. To me, we've not even started yet. But anyway, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Got the fear of missing out? Want to keep up with all the latest entertainment news and latest celebrity gossip? From the latest rumors to popping events to the newest fashion trends, here is where you get all the tea or juice when it comes to entertainment, and you get it served on time. All that and so much more on Grapevine every single Monday only on KBC Channel 1. Remember, if you did not see it on Grapevine, then it most probably never happened.
kila mwisho wa juma hapa katika
Even if it's not the white man, it's for the Chinese.
Do you know the Ugandans here are already saying they're not exporting their raw materials.
Strong man.
They are doing value addition. Sometimes the price of these basic commodities we're saying we export.
That is part of our discussion. We are about
That's where.
Let's continue. The session is on. The session is on. So welcome back. How is the government tackling the big challenges, gentlemen? Because now it seems that from what Crispus was saying, engineer, is that there are certain hurdles that the government must face, including what the president said when he met members of the public at State House. He assured members of the public that yes, we are having a lot of problems, but just be patient a bit. We are going to stabilize the economy. So what are some of these hard challenges that President William Ruto and this administration must face for us to make it? Coming back to you, Husband.
I think one of the hardest challenges the president needed to deal with, which has bedeviled his government over the last 3 years,
yes,
has been political instability. And I think to a large extent he's done well. He needs to maintain that. The nation needs a stable environment for us to progress. But number two, our public debt remains a big challenge.
Yes.
I know we've moved to around 66% of GDP in terms of the exposure, but our daily cost of servicing that debt, if you look at the collective sum total of it, is still very high. And unless we find some miracle somewhere, we are continuing to spend more of our taxes towards debt service. And I think one of the things this government must do going forward, be very intentional to drive development programs away from either additional loans, work more towards PPP projects.
Yes.
So that then the key development projects that we need that will drive and bring us money are driven from a private sector perspective. Although the risk around those being abused through corrupt practices is also there. So we need to have an enabling legislation that is able to do that. But more importantly, tap into our national saving culture,
yes,
to help drive our development into the future, because you realize Kenya is probably the least saving country in this region. Even our neighbors Uganda and Tanzania have saved more than us in their equivalent of NSSF. That speaks to a nation where we do not want to take care of our seniors when they retire. I've always said it here, Victor, the statistics are grim, that 40% of those who retire when they hit 60 die within 2 years in this country. That is how bad it is. So even as we complain about lacking money to spend now, when you get to 60, you shudder at the moment you walk to your retirement with a check of 700,000, and that symbolizes your work for 20 years, 30 years plus. I think that has to change. Our seniors must retire with something decent that allows them to live a life where they can extend their life in this world, because as you retire, diseases, all those other things mount. So cash is king. So I think those are areas the government needs to look at. But other than that, I also wanted to highlight something that my brother mentioned. I think one of the reasons why Kenyans are not feeling the good work this government has done around what we can pick out from our economic statistics is because we have an equal society where trickle down of these benefits are very difficult in certain quarters. So the government must be very deliberate to unlock the potential of the underprivileged lot. And majority of Kenyans are not employed. So the unemployment space is largely supported by the informal sector. So you must then, as a deliberate strategy, put more resources and strategies towards unlocking the informal sector. And how do you unlock the informal sector? It's additional support to the agricultural value chain. is additional support to the SMEs and MSMEs. How we can strengthen that space. I know there is the program under Hustler Fund. We need to deepen support to these people and unlock the private sector. Then you will probably start having people feeling the benefit of that.
Okay. Prof, by March 2023, the GDP stood at 68%. Was that good or bad way back then?
GDP
stood at
the debt to GDP.
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you very much. I'm just going to, before I even address that question, I'm just going to add to what...
the debt GDP, yes.
Esbon said. One, a number of challenges that we're facing, and I think that also aligns with what Engineer has said, that one of the biggest challenges that we find ourselves today in is that the government committed about ensuring that money gets to the pockets of the people, especially the common man. But why all these numbers are good, and people at the bottom are still grumbling, is because they are not seeing that money coming to their pockets. See, and we'll hear people saying that, oh, we don't need roads, we don't need all these things. We need to see the money, and I think for government to get that level, a lot of dynamics have to take place, and that is what the development that we've seen over the last 3 years, is leading us to. Getting money to the pockets of the common mananchi. And until that is done, then the noise that we hear and the complaints that we get from the common mananchi will continue. And so the government must make deliberate efforts in ensuring that money gets to the pockets of people. Number two, it's about the public wastage. We have all these resources that we have, and a bigger part of it goes to wastage. I think if the government, controls this wastage or seals the gaps, that money goes to development, then it will be very awful.
Would it be the reason why the government is calling for the e-procurement?
Well, that's one of the reasons. And that is why everybody is complaining, because there have been gaps in the procurement system of this country, that people make all these 10%, 5% across. But now, because they know once the e-procurement system is in place, then the best will be selected automatically by the system. And that is one way of ensuring that we seal the gap that we see with our wastage system. If that is done, certainly, of course, this money will be now moved to the 5 pillars of the Kenya Kwanza administration. And advancing that, including, of course, what we're seeing with the Hustler Fund, the SMEs, the ESP markets, and so on and so forth. The other thing is about the taxation. Taxation has been a burden to the middle class. Those guys who are above the bottom. The ones who, of course, who are feeling that pinch. When you get a 2% plus, or when 40% of your salary goes to taxes, you feel that pain. And then your disposable income decreases, which means that the money that you send to those farm workers in the village also decreases, or you have to fire people out there. Again, that has affected the trickle-down process of resources coming from that group of people to the people at the bottom. But one thing that we need to understand, and I think I like what President Ruto says, we must finance our development. This is what happened in China way before, and one of my friends did tell me that in 1992, China complained about the same. But China is where it is today because they're financing that. The only challenge that we put to the government is to ensure that these taxes work for the people. They don't work for a few people at the top. They work for Kenyans across. Now, coming down to the 68%, it is not about the percentage part of it. In fact, if it doesn't get beyond 7%, you are quite okay. But if we are to talk about the debt, the GDP debt ratio, or the debt GDP ratio, and if you are to go around and look at the figures, of advanced countries, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked by Japan. You'll be shocked by UK. You'll be even shocked by the US, whose debt is around 30 trillion USD, way above their 27 trillion economy, which means that it's more than 100%. The point here is that how do we grow our industrial base? Because they borrow from themselves. Japan borrows internally, domestically. The US borrows domestically, and it's denominated in dollars. Until now, we get to that level of our saving culture, so that we can start borrowing from within. then this debt, GDP ratio is going to be a problem to us. But where it is at the moment is not a problem. We are okay with 68, 70%. The only thing that we need to do is to ensure that our industrial development comes first. And one of the questions that we ask ourselves, and this is a point that was raised by one of my good friends out there, said that, we do not have a very strong industrial development policy. And that is what has guided most of the economies to get where they are. The government must make deliberate efforts in ensuring that we have that policy, implement it, grow our industries, so that we can create the jobs that we're talking about, the decent jobs. And it's not just people complaining, saying that, Ruto is, creating jobs in the construction sector. Well, so far, we have around 300,000 that have been created there.
Yes.
But even in the digital space, under the Ministry of IC and Digital Economy, we have around 300,000 other jobs that have been created because of the growth of the digital space in this country. The fiber optic, the last mile, fiber optic, and also the innovations that have been created by Kenyans. So importantly, we need to grow our economy internally. So that we can fund our operations, both internally and, take care of these external fundamentals.
That is my next question. What about our relationship with our big brothers out there? I mean, is it really affecting the stability of our economy? China, of course, we've been friends for years, since Kenyatta administration to date. Has it really affected our debt crisis?
The issue about the debt is because of the local needs as a country. It's not about our relationship out there. Our relationship with our other economies is very good. And people will make, people will play politics. Say that, Kenya is this, or Kenya is not liked, or Kenya is blacklisted. But any major summit in any advanced country globally must have Kenya on the table. We were in Japan in August. The Tokyo International Conference on African Development. President Ruto was actually the key, key head of state and government in that Korea, for the Korea. Without President Ruto, the conversation that took place there would not have taken place. In China, the same thing. It's only that we are now deliberate in not just looking, to the West. We must look across and build, partners across, globally.
I think what I would GDP, just like you say, yes, there could be pointers to how best you can run your economy. The big elephant in the room, you can have a debt to GDP ratio of 60 or 70%, but the cost of servicing that debt is cheaper than the cost of somebody who has a debt to GDP ratio of 50. So it's about what is the cost of that debt, because the problem is more than 50% of that debt is domestic.
Yes.
But at what cost are we servicing that debt? We are paying over 10% on average for that local debt. Now, if you pay another 3% on the external debt, you find yourself paying over 1 trillion shillings as debt service out of your 2.5 trillion revenue collection. So that is where, for me, the problem lies. So if we can be able to stabilize our economy, to stabilize the cost of borrowing, and the only way you stabilize that cost of borrowing, because market forces apply, is to ensure that as a country, you have a budget that indicates lower deficit. That is a disincentive for the private sector to know that government is not going to borrow much from us. Let's push our money to the private sector. That's one. Two, our legal reforms is priced in the risk of borrowing in this country.
Yes.
So that if I have a title deed in a bank, and that title deed 2 years later is declared fake, what happens to the bank? So if we don't have a system that banks can trust, that if you fail to pay a loan, they have a recourse in court and they can get justice within the shortest time possible, the justice system works. All these things are finding themselves in how we do business.
Yes.
So the cost of doing business in a country has many, many faces, including a functional judicial system, including a legal regime that is reliable and predictable. So I think those are the things I wanted to add. But I think more importantly, globally, and this is why we need to cast our nets wider, we need to appreciate that there is shift in global dynamics, and that is geopolitics. what happens in America, how it relates with China and India, all those things around BRICS are things we must not lose sight on, because one way or the other, they will affect our interests locally here. You've had our complaints around Ukraine war. It has affected us in many ways how we do certain business.
Yes.
Then now there is the IMF and how it comes with these conditions. And even the politics today around IMF, why it is charging more to poor countries to borrow and charging less to developed countries to borrow. That you, being a big player, you borrow at 2% or 1% with less conditions. A small player borrows more expensively, more like the poverty tax. Yet when you look at the dynamics of IMF today, the big nations of 30, 40, 50 years ago are no longer big anymore. The economies in Europe are now very small.
Correct.
For example, India's economy has surpassed many of European Union countries. China has, over the last 20, 30 years, more or less clawed back 10 times the economies in Europe. So the dynamics have shifted. So the way the president says, the world must have a sitting. If IMF has to work for everyone, it must not be a big man's stool where there are 5 people on the table because there were big nations 30, 40 years ago, but now they're presiding over dying economies whose population is average is very old. They are not the nations of the future. So it is important that we pay attention to that space, because when we want to borrow externally, we are going to be rated. And those ratings apply in how we service our debts.
Right.
And that is why it's important to appreciate, even as a country, how did we get here? People talk about how Kibaki had this lead on the cost of borrowing, why banks would hawk loans at the doorsteps. But the reason is, during Kibaki era, we were a poor nation. This nation decided to rebase its GDP in 2014, and many people don't understand what it means. It meant that we said there were certain aspects of our GDP or value of economy that was not factored in. Once we factored it in, we are now ranked on average as a middle-income country. Middle-income countries cannot access certain debts in the global market. The loans that Tanzania and Uganda can access at cheaper or no interest, or even ours, we can't get. That's why we went to Eurobond. That's why you will not hear Eurobond in Uganda or Tanzania, because they are not in that space. We are in that space. So it's important that it looks good. Yeah, so as long as we are able to manage then our economy in a manner that appreciates that, we need to put a lid on the cost of borrowing. For me, that is where we need to look at. And I'm happy the financial services sector through the central bank and the commercial banks in Kenya are looking at how they price credit and to have a much fairer and predictable way of
So in the next 10 minutes, 3 years down into the fourth now. So let's have some sharp focus. All right. Crispus, all these things put together, the economic recovery, stability, infrastructure, talk about electricity connection, talk about health and all that. We've had, more or less what we've done is a postmortem for the last 3 years. So now look ahead. What do you think is now, if you are to sit on that round table with the president, what do you think could be your priorities to steer the country forward?
I think the challenge we have right now for the president is the issue of time. We are 2 years effectively, or around 20 months to the next general election. There is already one budget cycle that has been set that he must work with. So there is very little room in terms of how he can be able to maneuver around in terms of changing the economic blueprint for the next 1 year. Then the following year it will be a campaign period, so there will be a lot of promises, there will be a lot of reflection, there will be a lot of checking how far we've come. So in terms of what I would advise the president is you stabilize the economy, we must agree. But there are certain things that have not created the necessary, the impact that we were looking forward to. I think when we talk about Singapore, we talk about China, we talk about Korea, we talk about all these countries have a unique proposition that they relied upon to make certain deliberate actions so that they are where they are today. For example, China has a very huge population, which India also has. But China looked at that population and took advantage of it in terms of making itself a factory of the world and positioning itself in a way that there was a lot of investment that were made in that country. People were able to come and do their production in that country, and through that process, China was able to learn and acquire a lot of skills and knowledge transfer, which now has helped them to position where they are today. Singapore, in the maritime world, where it was positioned, despite being kicked out of by Malaysia, it was in a very unique position where it was able to attract the trade traffic around the world, and it was said, they told themselves, if we are able to make ourselves a manufacturing hub, people can come and set up factories. We can be able to do the following and the following. Then what do we need? We need proper housing, we need a good healthcare system, we need a good financial system, and all this will be able to make people attracted to our location. Then what as a country do we need to say is our unique proposition as a region, so that we invest more in that, so that it can be able to attract the other areas of growth that we require as a country. But as long as we are doing all these experiments here and there, we will never get it right. We need to say, as a country, Kenya, where we are today, we are a stable economy, stable politically, although that has been challenged so far. We have a good human capital. How can we take advantage of that to prepare ourselves for the next 10, 20 years? Let us not work with a 5-year plan or 10-year plan. Let us work with a very long plan that can be able to be inherited by successive governments and be able to be built upon. But all these short-term things will not be able to help. This today I change the system, another one will come and remove the same system, then another one will come bring another system. We will never go anywhere. It will be all experimenting and will not go any far. So we need to be able to come up with a proper blueprint going forward that will set this country for the next 20, 30 years. That nobody...
We have Vision 2030.
It has only 5 years to go. Why did we lose track of it over 10 years ago? Do we go back to it? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Is the Vision 2030 the same thing we have today in affordable housing, food security, and health system? The political situation we have today is the same one in Vision 2030. That's what we need to ask ourselves. Where did we lose track? So that every successful government, including the counties, can follow the same blueprint. All these countries have been successful because there is a predictability. Uganda is stable, is doing where it is because Museveni is there. People know Museveni will always be there. In Tanzania, there is CCM. It will never change. But today we have UDA. Next year we have another party. We cannot tell where country will be. So, even South Africa, now that it's becoming ANC, DA, people are now wondering, are we going to have a DA government in the next 10 years? Singapore was there because the government was always there. The PM would change, but the party will be there. We need to be able to create a predictable environment for people to bring capital, for people to plan.
Moving forward, Prof, when you talk about the role of leadership and collaboration, of course, moving forward, we've seen how the president has brought together different political players from different political parties, call them experts. Okay, that's their political name, whatever they use. But then, when we talk of the role of leadership and collaboration in stabilizing the economy in the country, how do you think the president should enhance and actually put more pin on that moving forward?
One of the most important things, and that the government must do, is stabilizing our local politics. When you talk about the broad-based government, I think a government, once a campaign cycle, an electoral cycle is complete, we need to go back as a country and start working for the country, not to start another cycle of political processes. And while we are talking about these other countries, the dynamics in the Asian tigers, or even the BRICS, is because of the stability of their local politics. People know that China's governance structures and systems will remain as they are. And that is why their vision is not 5 years, 20 years or 30 years, it's 100 years. That is important, because when you have a long-term vision and every political process is aligned to that, then you always must deliver. Now, when you look at their plans, between now, by 2027, they must overtake the US. By 2029, they must be the leaders of the world. 2049, 100 years after, since they became who they are, Now, if we had that, instead of just bringing politicians who come in and say that, engineer started this, I don't want to touch this, let me start mine so that I build my own personal legacy. Now, that is a lost, country. So, number one, we need to straighten our governance systems. And that, President William Ruto has an opportunity to bring all these people together. Number two, as Kenyans, we must be committed to delivering this country from where it is to a better country. When you look at all these other countries that have done what they have done to be where they are, it is because of the people who have been committed to the cause of making sure that they stand out as the best. And in Kenya, we have the best human capital. You know, if you go across the world, you hear that, oh, if you give it to a Kenyan, it will be done. If you can just take advantage of that human resource, then Kenya is going to get to a level never seen before. Our Vision 2030. I know the government is now doing Vision 2063, so that will align with the African Union Agenda 2063. Now, those visions are important. Only if whoever comes into power every 5 years or every 10 years aligns with the delivery of that particular vision. And I think for Kenyans, because in Kenya today, the Kenyans are now the guys who put checks and balances at what the government does. Kenyans must ensure that whoever becomes the president of Kenya aligns their development processes with the vision, the agenda, that long-term agenda that we as Kenyans have agreed to. Because a vision is not a government agenda. It is a Kenyan or a citizen sort of process. And finally, moving forward, what do we want to see? We have the 5 pillars that are yet to be fully achieved. We would like to see the president focusing on those 5 pillars. Because the 5 pillars, if properly implemented, will now take Kenya to that level that we're looking forward to. If it's agriculture, we go beyond the 7 million bags, beyond the maize and beans to other crops that can be consumed locally, but also exported. We need to get into the value chain development process, that instead of exporting coffee beans, we now add value here, so that we build, we of course build those industries locally, but also create opportunities for our people. If you go to the SMEs, instead of just giving USLA fund, we need now to go beyond that. We started with what we committed, but now we need to give more to sort of, instead of giving a boda rider or owner 500 to fuel their motorcycle, we need now to move them to telling them that no, you can put your groups together and move to an SME production process, so that you create opportunities for others. If you go to the digital superhighway, of course you have created jobs, but we need to cement Kenya's leadership in the area of the digital space, not just in Africa, but across. The way we did with M-Pesa, we need now to be the Silicon Valley of not just Kenya or Africa, but for the rest of the world. Because the world believes in Kenyans, in our capacity in sort of innovating and taking the world to a better level. And finally, of course, the housing part of it. I believe that if we transform our cities from slums, the way the president is doing, the Kibiram, the Mukuru, Kwanza, and so on and so forth, we are going to attract the right investments, especially foreign direct investments. And this now revolves around doing business in Kenya better than the rest of the continent.
I have a message here from a gentleman called Edward Aseli. He says that he's in economics class, so he's late literally for class because he's attending class on KBC. And the director is also good enough. He says 10 minutes. Okay. So I think that is okay.
Thank you.
Come back, I'll give you, of course, 10 more minutes so that we do our final remarks. All right? Stay with us.
Hello, fabulous ladies. Welcome to the talk show that's all about sisterhood, empowerment, and unfiltered conversation. We will be focusing on women. We believe in women.
We are really changing.
We are creating a safe space for women to connect, thrive, and share.
Just because you're a woman on a bike, you're labeled in a certain way.
It's not just a talk show, it's a movement.
When they're standing, we need to stand out.
From heartwarming tales to hilarious adventures.
They could ask me, Catherine,
Why are you learning?
Tumefanyiwa hot bomb. Unasema kuko na blood dry. Umechomeka huku kote.
We are turning the spotlight on women who are breaking barriers in their individual fields.
You have to have a vision.
You are the leaders of Kenya today.
Keeping it honest and relatable.
Mental health is real.
Yes.
Where there is no communication, there is no relationship.
Join the sisterhood on KBC TV for Dada's show.
Nani mwakomolete chakula sahi? Kidogo kidogo ile kudozi moja mbili tatu Tanzania. Na unamende kwa mradi yangu. Na mbona sahi unaikula?
Nitaka nipite. Ukiendelea kukula hiyo hoto na uchirai bado watoto.
Onjiri? Yes. Nilikuwa naomba tu usaidizi yako.
8,000 shillings? Bwana, that is pocket change bwana.
Daga, Onjiri minto igware matani. Acha nikuhata.
Oh no. Mimi hii ulipeleka saloni mwisho lini?
Nani? Kwani unafanya?
Mama shawa ikatakata nyama vizuri. Leo nakumaliza wewe.
Weka kichwa chini. Leta kitu. Sina kitu. Una kitu aje.
Matope, sika.
And you don't care whether I'm elected or not. I mean, come on. But at the end of the day, I see in the next 2 years us getting somewhere and looking back and saying, we did what no one could have done.
Welcome back. Today, I've just seen that today is International Day for Democracy. Interesting. Okay. Today we are not talking about politics, if you've noticed. Today is about economics 101. Hakuna siasa leo. Okay, Edward Aseli, we are almost done with the class. School fees has to be paid somewhere. Final remarks. Let's talk about the issue too with the regional inequalities, Crispus, because Kenya is, is standing steadily when you talk about the regional stability and all that. Kenya stands so steadily in East Africa and Africa generally. And even if you go on the in the world platform, we are seen. So how do we make our faces known? What should the president do to make it even more brighter and more stable? In 2 minutes.
I think one of the issues I've always had a challenge with is the men and women that are put in our diplomatic offices across the region. Sometimes they don't fit the role that is required of them. Remember, our regional neighbors are our biggest trade partners: Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, DRC, and they are also the quickest opportunities for us we can be able to do business. If we are able to grow our industry here, the quickest place we can be able to find market is in this region. So therefore, the men and women who put in those offices there, in those regional offices, they are people who are able to build our business networks, be able to make sure our position as a country reflects well, our challenges here domestically are not perceived badly or the region, and also making sure that we are able to interact more in a better way with our regional players. Currently, our president is among the youngest in the region. Therefore, the Ugandan president, Kagame, some of the older peers that we have in the region, and therefore William Ruto appears to be the young one, together with the one of Ethiopia. But then they are the people with the biggest economies. They are young, yes, they should not be looked as young people, but they have the responsibility of steering the biggest economy, Ethiopia and Kenya. So therefore they need to be able to project that innovativeness in terms of how they steer the economy. The economies need to be different from others. In terms of what we position ourselves, it needs to look different. We need to stop relying with the traditional way of marketing Kenya, positioning Kenya in terms of the business proposition, in terms of diplomatic proposals. We need to look how different. And I think that is something I think Uhuru Kenyatta tried to do very well in terms of positioning the country in a very good position diplomatically. And with us now, because of the many mandamanos we've had, we have lost that position. So maybe you take advantage of the next 2 years to do that, bringing back the attractiveness Kenya has. And Kenya still has. If you go to West Africa, Southern Africa, they still respect Kenya as a stable country. So we haven't lost it. We have an opportunity to reorganize ourselves, but we can do more than we have done this far.
We can do more.
Yeah.
We still have hope. And let's talk about that. You can also talk about the issue with the value addition and market access, because that's what common manage would want to get. Whether subsistence or large-scale farming, production and all that, how we can access this market. Just teaching somebody else there on what we should do to make our bread basket even more full and bigger.
Yeah, thank you, Victor. I think in terms of value addition, this is the biggest missed target for this government. We started very well with those market value addition centers across the country. I remember Moses Kuria was moving around every county to set up those structures. I think that's the biggest lost space, because our agricultural sector, where we have the cash crops, where we have coffee, we have tea, we still export most of those products raw. We can do value addition here locally and then sell them out there as finished products. That would guarantee us between twice the current prices to even three times the current prices. Uganda's led the way. It's already processing its coffee and it's deciding it leaves that country to your shelf, so that you don't go to Starbucks and you're getting coffee from Kenya but labeled another country. I think that is a space we need to occupy, and I think not just Kenya, African countries need to go that direction. What we can do is leverage on the structure the national government has. This was part of its manifesto. That will help us address the challenges in the agricultural sector. I did mention that all our cash crops have done very well in terms of volumes and in terms of payout to the farmers because of the reforms that are there. But not every part of Kenya has those cash crops. So we need to expand that support so that when you talk about the economy getting better, people cannot complain when the price of milk has gone up and the production of milk has gone up. Who is benefiting from this milk is a farmer. Can that return be tripled? Yes. If it's tea, the same. If it's coffee, if it's sugarcane, all that then gets to the common man who consumes the biggest chunk of our economy. Secondly, we cannot lie or run away from our public debt situation. And Kenyans need to be very patriotic. We are collecting about 15% of our GDP as taxes. And the reality is, so many of us don't pay taxes. There are a lot of informal businesses here. There are people who are driving big cars, don't pay taxes. The best thing for us to do, follow the South African model. There is a way you can still access personal data for people in a safe space without using it against them. Let us develop the right laws that allows KRA to do what is right. And we will collect an additional close to 3% of our GDP as taxes. We'll have addressed our public debt issue. That requires reforms in KRA and in revenue collection. Now, when it comes to expenditure, EGPay is important. If we have it, we'll probably also claw back on wastage in terms of what we spend in our country. Now, there's security, because a nation's security is key to its progress. We've tinted on the very, very dangerous borderlines. Kenyans need to know elections are there every 5 years. If you don't get it now, let's wait for 5 years. And if the government is bringing reforms that are not right, there are ways through which we can invalidate them, including through courts that are functional. Let's avoid this manner of denigrating and destroying our country in the names of this kind of process. And let's remember, I know we talked about those countries that are doing well, Singapore, China, but they have one common denominator. Those countries are not democratic.
Yes.
And I don't think it's the direction we want to go. We must remain democratic, abide by our 2010 constitution, which is probably the best in the world. And then finally, I would want to talk about the fight against graft. If you do not fight graft from a government perspective, we lose the populace who do otherwise have supported our good ideas. The government has very good ideas around SHA, very good ideas around affordable housing, but when they read about corruption cases that keep emerging from one area to the other, it dampens their spirit. Remember, we used to have kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. And Kenyans loved that phrase. And KRA would speak about it with a lot of comfort.
Yeah.
Today, even they feel fearful telling Kenyans, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea, because along the way, some of these things are misconstrued.
Thank you.
And finally, as I conclude, let us also be patriotic in terms of what we convey out there. I know the issues around even the SHA that we talked about, the 104 billion. To the common man reading 104 billion SHA, they look at it as an entire scam.
Yeah.
This is money paid. The reality is somebody is investing in an infrastructure that you're not paying for. You'll be paying for it over a 10-year period. It may be expensive.
Yes.
It could have been done better, but let's have the right context around issues so that when we talk about this kind of environment, can you imagine 54 million Kenyans, or 24 million as it is now, being able to access services at level 2, 3, and 4, and even 5 and 6, and their digital data is constrained, is stored in some database that can be accessed from every part of the country. That is what this is all about. So it's also very big. We need to appreciate that.
And finally, because I want us to go to Kisumu and talk about, development and urbanization, we'll be talking to Abala Wanga, who is one of the big voices in Kisumu County. But Prof, in 1 minute, you've had a very busy time meeting delegation from Guangzhou, head of public service. How is Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology? You are a busy man.
No,
final remarks.
Thank you very much, for raising that up. And I think that ties with the human capital development that we're looking at. The Kenya Advanced Institute of Science and Technology is moving forward very fast. It's our newest university.
They're so busy.
We're actually expecting the president to come down there on the 29th to award the charter, and then we start working out there with our partners. We have all these people from China, from Korea, from Japan, from the US, from Europe, who are coming down there seeking for possibilities of collaboration, and this is part of our foreign diplomacy. Just trying to ensure that we market Kenya as the destination of choice when it comes to human capital development, through tourism in that sector, and so on and so forth. And of course, this ties with the regional development that we've talked about. I think we are all alive to the fact that we need to stand firm as a country to ensure that we take our position regionally and also in the continent, given that regionally we're the largest economy, just ahead of Ethiopia, which is a massive country. But importantly, as we build our value chains, as we develop them, and of course as we build, strengthen our manufacturing sector, it is important, of course, now to look into tariffs that we have across our neighbors, and to ensure that we also aligned with the Africa, continental free trade area, where now we need to unlock all the challenges that we have in there to ensure that our products find space in our neighboring countries, so that we take that leading role. But finally, it's important to look at growing our economy to knowledge-based. And that is why in this area of digital development, all advanced economies that we see out there are all knowledge-based and innovation-led. And Kenya can play that important role in taking lead in the continent. And just like engineer said, we are an attraction across in the continent. If you go to Nigeria, they'll say that, we want to come to Kenya. If you go to South Africa, Kenya is the best country. Even when you see all these demos, whatever happens in Kenya cannot happen anywhere else. They are saying that, people can rise up against the government. Gen Z will have, and we will call that democracy. But in our case here, we call that our internal mechanisms of checking and putting checks and balances to the government, because we as Kenyans know exactly what we need from the government of Kenya.
That is a very powerful to state one. That's a very powerful to finish that. So very soon we'll see KAIST up and running.
It's coming up. I'll be inviting you down there. Just come see exactly what is happening.
All of us.
We'll start covering that. Because I said, we're engineering, science and technology. It's a specialized university of the national defense and national intelligence. It's a university that we're in this country.
Okay.
Just to that to the next level.
Need to go to Kisumu. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Member East Park, and of course Professor and development expert, engineer, the governance expert, 3 wise men. Monday morning, if you know what I'm talking about. And thank you so much for coming to the show, and enough for watching. But then let's cross over to Kisumu and talk to Wycliffe Okech. Wycliffe, a very good morning from the lakeside city of Kisumu. I see you with Abala Wanga there. What are you going to tell us? Let's talk about the smart city concept. inside the Kisumu's Smart City Quest. Hey, Bwana, this is so big. How are you, Wycliffe?
I'm fine, Victor, and very many thanks to you, and also quite an interesting conversation right there in the studio. And this morning, like you mentioned it, I am joined by the city manager, Kisumu City, Mr. Michael Abalawanga, and this morning we are talking about the smart city concept as part of our weekly Western Spectrum show, or rather segment on Good Morning Kenya. And CM, we want to talk about the smart city concept, and you being the city manager, Kisumu, and also the chairperson of the Kenya Caucus of Cities and Municipality Managers. I believe you have all the information that we need to understand, actually that our viewers need to understand what this concept of smart city is. And straight away, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes. And thanks for finding time to join us this morning to talk about this whole issue. First of all, isn't it so overwhelming being the city manager of the lakeside city of Kisumu, and also that caucus of the managers of municipalities and cities? Isn't it overwhelming?
Yes, first to start with, being a city manager of Kisumu, I must confess to you that I worked in different public sectors, but this is one of the most challenging jobs. That people might envy, and it's not an easy job. Yeah, because I became a city manager when my predecessor had laid foundations, and I became a city manager with a script of the governor's manifesto.
Yes,
to transform the city, and it was going to touch on many lives.
Sure,
and touch on different kinds of people who interact in the city differently. So it is a job of that, is not a serious, let me use the language, it's not a lovey-dovey affair.
All right.
It's not it is an unpopulist job. So you can't be a populist. If you become popular and people like you, then there's nothing you are doing.
That means you are not doing the right thing.
So we came in with a lot of issues, and then also being a chair of cities and municipal caucus also is a challenging job. We have a lot of issues. We have over 170 urban centers that have a lot of human resource management, and when I say administration, there's a lot of autonomy, also semi-autonomy issues for municipal management and the boards, human resource issues. At what category? How are you appointed? How do you leave office? You can be appointed today. You see my friend in Eldoret, city manager there who had known for long, Tito, was handed out of the office the other day, unceremoniously. So those are the challenges my colleagues face. Today you meet him today, you chat, you discuss, they come for benchmarking. After 2 weeks, they are out of that office.
And you have to start all over again.
Yeah, so it's a security of tenure. So it is a job that you serve at the whims of somebody.
All right.
Yeah.
Now on to our subject this morning, the smart city concept. And Kisumu, they call it here the Europe of Kenya. Basically, what do you understand with the smart city concept, so that we can be at par with our viewers this morning?
A smart city concept is basically a city with a threshold to meet a lot of urban problems. So I use the word urban resilience. Is a city resilient enough to meet the challenges, meet and mitigate the challenges it faces? For example, Kisumu, we are approaching rains now.
Sure.
And our 4 wards within the city that floods. And Kapote and Ribanyamasaria banking. So is this city strong enough to face the challenges of flooding or rising water levels along the waterfront? Or is this city strong enough to face the disastrous challenges like fire If today where we are sitting there's fire, how quick would you respond and to salvage properties and lives? So the smart city concept is, are you able to resist insecurity issues? And I'd like to address it strongly with insecurity, because are our CCTV and street lighting and cameras AI enough, artificial intelligence enough to identify you with your specs? If you maga balawanga today in a hood, you hooded and with the goggles, but is that camera in the street able to identify you and track you down to wherever you're going? So that's the smart city conference, is purely the modern, it's the future forecasting, future simulation of how a city should have the resilience in terms of technology to face the challenges. Are we able to monitor the fire? Are we able to monitor floods? Are we able to monitor diseases? Are we able to monitor populations with the markets? Are we able to, am I able to sit in my office and see you throwing a lot of garbage out of your vehicle, wherever I'm seated? Yes. Are we able to stop these kanjo-like things and do things that are datanized, and with data, proper data, and digitized properly, so that you don't see those askaris walking around? Yeah, because automatically people need to be responsible. There's street lights, there's cameras, and there's the ones that show you when to go or not to go, without having policemen harassing people everywhere.
Yeah. You have that concept. Yeah. And before we delve deeper into each of those points that you mentioned, because the points you've mentioned cut across a infrastructure. But from where you sit, and for the amount of time that you've been in,
In today's world, securing a job after university is increasingly difficult. Many graduates like Faith face harsh job rejections and a tough economy. Despite her hopes for a stable job post-graduation, Faith struggled to find work, leading to her to consider starting a business instead.
You're looking for jobs, there are no jobs, you're sending applications, you can't get even the responses. And so that led me to find a way of surviving, and that's when I ventured into selling laptops.
During this time, Faith connected with her friend Caleb, who ran a small computer sales and repair business. Recognizing a partnership opportunity, Faith brought fresh ideas while Caleb contributed his experience. Together, they embarked on an entrepreneurial journey.
Fresh ideas and also the zeal from someone new.
Setting up the business proved challenging. They needed to find a prime location, reliable suppliers, and raise funds for rent and...
E-mobility. Any walkways. for people to walk. And you see, even if you see the livability, you see people coming to be within the CBD area to stay there. Like if Makasembo is finished, Anderson is finished, and Lumumba, you see an influx of over 10,000 people around that area. They can walk to work. Sure. Yeah, they don't need to either drive or take border. And then you see Kibos is not far. Somebody can still use a motorbike. But our plan that the IDT is to go through the rapid bus system. Rapid bus system that should combine Kisumu in terms of metropolis from Maseno to Ahero. The bus should run from Maseno to Ahero, or initially it will start from Kisian to Rabur. Then you come from Kiboswa to Dunga with the interchange in between. So the interchange of buses in between should be the current bus park where we need to put a subway. So that's why we are trying to decongest 70% of public transport to go to Nyamasaria for that new bus park. So these ones should have upgraded Jubilee Market, a flyover to turn the Kisumu District Hostel into a hostel and a mall. And in between there should be interchange. If you are coming from Maseno and you want to go to Mamboleo, you can alight from Maseno, then take the same bus system to Mamboleo. And if you come from Mamboleo and you want to terminate there, fine. But if you want to proceed to Ahero, come from Mamboleo, terminate at the interchange, then go to Ahero or go to Rabur, whatever it is. So it's a plan we need to implement. What is there is it's not a government driven, it's a private sector driven. Yeah, so we have had discussions that people want to come under PPP. Sure. These negotiations will take long and will go a long way. Yeah, for now we are trying to use the two bus parks. All right. Molem has been a problem. We try to open it to decongest the central one. But you see people go, there are a lot of cartels, matatu cartels, those people, circles, quarreling. So they went to court. There's a court order. We have been trying to settle them to mediate. Meanwhile, as we mediate, there's lack of security. They vandalize things. They steal things. They vandalize properties there. But so far, so good. We have mediation almost over. And you see all these people parking around Aga Khan areas. Those are illegal parking. Yeah. Anytime you see, I try to push them back to the bus park, but the cartels can't allow it because you take a route, you deviate and go to the rest side and take a route. Once you take that route, you start parking vehicles there. So you get money per passenger and you get money per vehicle. So you become a lord there and the gang leader there, the cartel leader. So dismantling that, when we remove them, it is not the people demonstrating, not passengers. Sure. But it is the gang leader fueling the demonstration.
The operators. Yeah. How are you navigating this? Because cartelism and generally the operators, it's very convenient for them to operate within the city center. But again, for the sake of order within the city, how are you going to navigate this to ensure that those plans that you have in terms of bringing sanity and order to the city are implemented?
We just have to we have tried public participation with these characters. They will manipulate you into what they want. They are not, those cartels are very strong people. So what it is, let me tell you, even the people who are supposed to help you enforce the law owns those matatu.
Okay.
You find traffic policemen owns those matatu. My staff, our staff at the county government owns those matatu. And somebody runs them for. So if it's a sector when you are going to, you are running into a secular economy controlled by different people, even people you are supposed to help you to deal with them.
Are you basically saying you're giving up in this?
No, we're not giving up, but we are redesigning a mode and a method to do it now, because all those methods we have tried to fail. So we have at least reorganized ourselves so that now this time, when we deal it, we want to deal with it simultaneously. But the moment you see us opening a Masaria, then there'll be a lot of restrictions. If you can't find a space here, go to Nyamasaria, and don't park outside the bus park in the central business. Yeah. So all those you see, those are who walk outside, see Biafra Road, all those ones will dismantle. Petrol stations.
That's a concern because the pathways that are designed for the pedestrians, you find the three-wheelers, what we call the tuk-tuks, we find the motorbikes, also parking on those pathways, blocking pedestrians. When is the Moreland bus park, the new Nyamasaria bus park, when is it opening so that we can see it operational?
I want to distinguish these three categories of transport system. There's public transport, matatu business.
Sure.
There's tuk-tuk, and there's boda-boda. These people are totally different. They operate under different circles and different sectors.
Sure.
It is very easy and amenable to deal with the matatu system.
All right.
And it is also reasonable to deal with boda-boda. But the worst people to deal with are tuk-tuk. Because first, it is not a public transport system approved by any law, even NTSA. Tuk-tuk, these are supposed to be mini pickups carrying luggage. They're not supposed to be carrying passengers. Let me tell you, if you have an accident in tuk-tuk today, where will you claim your insurance? They're not supposed to carry passengers at all. Now, this is one that we must see how we radically phase out. But you know, they have employed people. They have employed over 9,000 people in Kisumu.
And they keep on increasing.
They keep on increasing because somebody is importing them from Mumbai or wherever to sell them here. Yeah. So I was in Durban and Cape Town. I didn't see any single tuk-tuk. I didn't see any single boda-boda. This craze of boda-boda is just here in East Africa and West Africa, Senegal, when you go to those areas, or Kampala here. I think it manifested from Kampala to this area. Now it is manifesting itself in Nairobi. But Addis Ababa, there's nothing like boda-boda. There's nothing like tuk-tuk. In fact, in Addis Ababa, when I was there, we went there for a conference, the bus that was transporting was the old KBS buses, with an old guy there who was almost retiring and going to enjoy his pension from that transport business. So, even here, I don't know why we should not transform tuk-tuk into city bus, because mostly they do city services.
Who's supposed to do this? Where should is it supposed to come from, if not the city management as part of the local administration?
No, our plan is to phase out tuk-tuk. First is to close the manufacturing and supply here.
Okay.
The guy is supplying them. Yeah, we are planning to call them and tell them we don't need any more supply. Convert whatever you have into this pickup. They can do a lot of pickup services.
All right.
Yeah, and then NTSA is a very notorious organization. They know very well that tuk-tuk, we have discussed with them, they know very well that tuk-tuk is not a public transport system to carry passengers. So it's good they tighten the news and tell tuk-tuk now. But now, you cannot just stop tuk-tuk like that. We are planning to have negotiations with them. You know, these people don't own these things. Somebody sits in an office and receives the money daily. It's like they take them on hire purchase. You are going to, you borrow it, no, you pay daily.
Right.
So you take your money and pay them. So somebody who is supplying tuk-tuk is the one making money. Now, what we need to do is, we are negotiating with the International Rapid Bus Company.
All right.
You know, if you bring like 500 buses, then you give priority to the tuk-tuk guys. Come, we employ you here. You work with us. And we do better transport ways, so that buses are now the rapid buses. So before that happens, now we cannot negotiate with them. We must get a bus company. There's a bus company who was willing from France. They have come so that we help them negotiate with them. And then also, we want to start putting restrictions on boda-boda. Now, category of boda-boda is now the worst.
Sure.
Because they have been infiltrated with thugs.
Okay.
Any shooting, any mugging, anything to do with somebody was killed or beaten is a boda-boda.
And that touches on borders on insecurity.
Insecurity.
That we are coming
to. Yeah. I'm just giving a hint now. But okay, boda-boda is easy. They penetrate the estates and remote areas where people go.
It's convenient for people.
But it is not a convenient transport system for CBDs. Yeah, it is what I saw in Durban as a city. They are shuttles. They have shuttles, they have taxis, which are very cheap, and also they have. There's not even public transport banging the vehicle for what? See. So let me ask you: those people in South Africa, see, they are just the people like us.
Sure.
Yeah, so we can provide job opportunities like this ones also. Yeah, why is there not? It is an African country. Why is there no border there? And there's a lot of border here.
It borders on policies.
Yes.
And the effectiveness on how those policies are implemented.
Yes, because the law there is serious. So here also, Kisumu should be the example city where we get rid of border and tuk-tuk. I'm not saying get rid, we transform them into another transport system.
Okay.
So for e-mobility and smart city, if we don't attain that status of having a comfortable, secure transport system, then it will take us a long way to be under the smart city concept. Yeah.
You seem to be benchmarking a lot. You've mentioned quite a number of cities that you've benchmarked with. And Kisumu is strategically placed, and it's blessed to be bordering the Lake Victoria, and that means it has all the modes of transport are available in Kisumu. Talk about the road transport, also the Kisumu International Airport here, and also the water transport. We've seen the governor has been mentioning a lot about the construction of non-motorable way along the lake as part of lifting the lakefront development. Do we have probably plans for the lake transport that to place? I mean, to take advantage of the strategic location of Kisumu.
Yes, you know, I saw anytime we post our plans in the media, there are people say planning. You keep planning.
We've seen it.
Now, Lakefront was an initiative started by Governor Nyong'o. I think I was in the forefront. I was the one who concocted the idea. So it was a special purpose vehicle to deal with the waterfront issues in Kisumu, and it's doing well. For now, at least they signed the deal. They have finished the negotiation, and Africa Development Bank is conducting a major feasibility study.
Okay.
Don't go starting doing things without proper planning. Let me assure you, even if you plan for 20 years, it's fine. Yeah, you see, this is not Goyodala, you go with grass-thatched house and you build. Even after that, now you plan a bigger house. Yeah.
But you also understand there's regime change. This regime could be planning, but then when the next one comes, it rubbishes all that.
You see, you cannot hurry up to do things in government with that mentality. Yeah. You plan. If a guy who comes to the office when you left is sober enough, we'll pick that plan.
Yes.
Even the public will start asking. The plan will be implemented. You see, President Ruto is completing the projects that President Ruto started. He cannot start and now design new things. If he came with affordable housing, he's now designing them anew and doing them too. But the infrastructure is found.
Yes.
So anybody who comes after Governor Nyong'o's administration will check the archives.
Yes.
And find out, I want to do waterfront. I think Governor Nyong'o planned it very well. We have feasibility study. Because feasibility study is not Governor Nyong'o's just doing that. It is a negotiation with the AFD. It is an international thing and a multi-sectoral approach. So when that feasibility study is out, then we deal with it. Yeah. So guy who comes deal with it. Even Governor Nyong'o, when he came in, there must have been a plan on something that he decided to implement. You will find KUP project going on, had been negotiated. It was on the table. It has taken 5 years to take off. But he quickly picked it up, and in 5 years he rapidly implemented it because it was already negotiated. It's for a long time, 10 years, and the money was now there. So this one also, Kisumu waterfront will come on board.
All right.
But let us finish the feasibility study by Africa Development Bank.
Okay.
Because you might go doing your own things there. Then you are messing up the whole ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah.
That enough with the infrastructure. Let us talk about the social amenities like the markets. A number of times we've seen that the traders, the hawkers in town, being told to go hawk their wares or sell their wares at identified market areas. We've got Jubilee Market within the town. We've got Uhuru Business Complex on the other side. But still, day in, day out, we see them still hawking their wares especially over the weekends, on the streets, across the streets within the city center. What is this policy really working for them?
Rule number 1, hawking is illegal. That one we cannot compromise and negotiate. Hawking is and that's why we have established a city court.
Sure.
The moment it's opened, now we will not have waste time chasing in the streets. We'll charge you where you are daily until you go back to the market. We have trading centers. Go to the market. But the worst people are not hawkers. The worst people are people purchasing from hawkers. Because if you are walking along the street and you want to purchase Ukumawiki from along the street, you want to purchase Tarimbo along the street, then you are the one encouraging that. So our law now, we are going to arrest both. If you find you buying, we arrest you. I don't want to use the word arrest, we charge you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if you want to, because you see, all these people you see in the street, they have spaces to trade in the market.
Okay.
They have Jubilee, if you go there, you'll find them with stalls. They are just using them as stores. Kibuye the same. Uhuru Market the same. You see, like Uhuru Market, people are out with tarimbos and jembes. If you ask them, what are you doing here? They tell you that customers are on the roadside, not in the market.
Yes.
Yeah, so we need customers. In a civilized society, in all this city, you even if you travel today, you will go to buy things in the market.
All right.
Yeah, you not go buy things. It's very unhygienic to buy things on the roadside. Yeah.
So, are you conducting probably public awareness to create this, to inform them that it is necessary actually to bring sanity and order in the city? This has to happen because you keep mentioning this, but then we keep seeing this pattern continuing.
You know, in hawking, we are not doing public awareness. We have finished construction of the city court. Okay. We are starting the city court in October.
All right.
So watch the space. We have no time to chase people in the streets.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to do that daily, then we'll arrest you daily and pay the fine daily.
So we'll see so many charges.
Yeah, the charges. So that if you go to the market, if you don't face the court every day and pay your fines. Yeah.
And October is just next month.
Yeah.
And we are all here.
You come and monitor and supervise.
We'll look at that. And that is something you are mentioning, Passion, about insecurity or lack of it. We know security is the national government role, but then again, the local administration can also play a role in terms of we have street lights working along the streets of Kisumu, so that you mentioned the border riders, and much of mugging actually. Whenever we hear of mugging, there are riders involved. I mean, to curb this menace, do we have really the street lights? Are they, because sometimes you walk in at night, or rather as early as 7, the streets are still dark. I mean, what's happening? Because lighting up the streets is a local administration role.
No, now you know what happens when. A transport system, let me start with that. As transport system becomes disorganized, it becomes a security threat.
Yes.
If you go to Jaramogi today, hostel, and this hostel, and you go to the accident center, you will find that 2 or 3 accidents are caused by border borders every day. And they are serious ones. Kids, broken bones, wards. It is the worst form of transport, I can tell you, because it has no insurance, it has no training, it has no driving license. Even a drunkard can take a border and carry a passenger today and go and kill. And the worst mode of transport that gangs hire to go rogue with is border. If you count the amount of insecurity issues, the ones that have related to mugging and the rest, you will count a border for it, 90%. Now, when it comes to insecurity, that is what we are providing a final blueprint and a plan on that I need to take to the board, then I take to the cabinet. This financial year, and in any project, we have negotiated with the governor that the huge portion of budget should go to solarization.
Yes.
and lighting of the city. And AI cameras installed in every sector, including the estates. And this will be done jointly with the community. Like in Mlimani, we are announcing that we are meeting the community in Mlimani to have gated community, and if possible, light your front gate, and put your CCTV camera. Even that one, even before that one of the city comes, because the direct entrance to investigate the security is the lighting.
Sure.
Now, I must confess that we have been lighting our streets through Kenya Power.
All right.
It has been very expensive for us to run those bills. And the other thing is we repair. Let me tell you, 2 months ago, we repaired the airport corridor, Nyamasari and Kondele. Those guys came at 3 a.m. and stole all the cables and took us back to square one.
And that is the reason I wanted to ask you, because when you adopt solarization, it is prone to vandalism. Any strategies to cover this?
No, solar. There's solar. Even if you vandalize now, you cannot sell them anyway. But like that KPLC cables are hot cake.
All right.
Those ones, even in the village, they come and cut the whole stretch of a road. So we have spent a lot of money replacing the cables, and they also vandalize them. So we have a problem. So we are shifting from Kenya Power lighting to solar. Kisumu is hot enough to concentrate.
Sure.
Yeah. So that is the biggest component that we have agreed this financial year. Yeah. We want to go estate by estate, street by street. Eldoret has done it very well.
Okay.
Through PPP, somebody is producing solar power very well and powering the city. If you go to Eldoret today, Eldoret is lighting better than Kisumu. Can't cheat you. It's true. So Kisumu we are clean, but that's portion of the city's street lighting is not good enough. But we are transiting, and then we have estimated we need a lot of floodlights.
Right.
Yeah, those floodlights in the 8 sets, the ones we have been installing. Sometimes they work, sometimes they vandalize, and then even in all market areas. Yeah.
Okay. Now you were talking about solarization and also, but is it happening just within the city center? Because we saw Kisumu is a city. What is the scope of Kisumu being as a city? Is it happening also in other satellite markets? Because we've had complaints of from the residents of Kisumu complaining that there is a lot of concentration within the city center, and the satellite townships like Maseno, Katito being neglected. What do you have to comment about?
I'm talking as city manager of Kisumu. That question we will address, but since I'm in the government, I'll address it. But within the city boundaries, we have 14 wards.
Sure.
Extending to the rural parts of the city. So all those wards are going to be covered. As when we do budget within the boundary of the city. And 70% of the activities in Kisumu counties are in the city. And 90% of insecurity issues are in the city. So the vehicles that pass here are so many, and they use the city streets. We have a huge population in this city. So the rural areas, also there's a plan going on. I know we are going to do it jointly. So it's not in isolation. Except that, the city, there are projects that the city benefits from, like the World Bank and KBP as a city. So when they are done in the city, they make a difference.
Sure.
But if you check the county budget, the city does not even have 10% of that county budget. The whole budget goes to different sectors, agriculture and the rest. Even that energy and the rest, and markets. So the city as a department is not the one consuming the whole budget of the county. The whole budget of the county, and you can see work is being done at the county.
All right. Yeah. Let's now talk about waste management, which is a very key component in the smart city concept. We took some pictures yesterday. We surveyed the city and its vicinities. We took note that even just behind the bus park, there is a heap of garbage. What is the management doing about waste management within the city?
At the bus park, we have a problem because we started a material recovery center there. It has become a dumping site. because they need to take waste there to isolate. So we are going to relocate it.
All right.
Yeah, it's not serving any purpose there, because it is creating attraction of more waste.
Sure.
And then the other thing, when we decommissioned Kachao and we opened up Kasese. Kasese is almost over 20 kilometers from here. Most of these private waste pickers have old vehicles and old trucks. So these old vehicles and their old trucks, the driving to Kasese is very far for them.
Okay.
So they go there at night. We have taken pictures and we have tracked them. They go there at Kanu area and dump waste there at night for us to pick for them to take there, which is illegal. So that is what is causing. If you go to Nyalenda Ring Road, if you go to Bunga near Stadium, they are the ones converting those areas to dumping sites. So in ideal situation, if they were carrying their waste all the way to Kasese, then you will see those areas the waste in those areas will be becoming very low.
Okay.
Yeah, but now we have to grapple with collecting waste ourselves, with our trucks and our machineries, which sometimes might be very overwhelming. Kibuye market alone, the waste they generate in a day is overwhelming for our trucks to pick them from there.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we are working is we want a market management policy, where that market management policy, at least they should find a way of dumping their waste and at least getting vehicles to transport those waste to them. Because you find in Kibuye there's this money they can collect, which can comfortably manage their waste.
Yes.
Yeah. And we can play our bit in a certain percentage.
Even as we wrap up this conversation, maybe you want to mention just in a minute or two, mention something to do about. It is projected that by 2050 there will be at least 68% of the population, population from the rural to the moving to the urban center. Tell us about probably the plans to provide accommodation to this population and also employment through industries. Do we have a pipeline project towards that?
Yes, what is happening is there's what we call the future is urban. My governor says the future is urban. Sure. It is the reverse. When we were young, we were being told that we wacha mjini rudi nyumbani.
Sure.
That is not what is happening now. People are coming to urban centers.
Sure.
And urban centers are growing. So in Kisumu, you see how rapidly we are bringing all the sort of investors to do affordable housing. We want to provide as many houses as possible.
All right.
For livability. And that's why we are rapidly planning drawing a plan for transport mobility system.
Sure.
And rapidly putting up more markets.
Okay.
But what is important is radically we're going to see the plan is going to be out for industrial park and semi-scaled workers. Right. A city will create more jobs.
Okay.
If you deal with the tourism industry, the hotel industry, people can get jobs. Industrial park, semi-scaled. So where somebody can earn a wage or can be self-employed to do something. So in Kisumu, I think we're on the trajectory of planning that and dealing with it. So we don't see any fear. We need more people in Kisumu, as many as possible. Yeah, let them come. Kisumu has the space to accommodate them. Yes.
Thank you so much, Banasiyam, for finding time to join us this morning, even as we talk about the smart city concept. And that has been has been Michael Abalawanga, the city manager Kisumu City, and also the chairperson of the Kenya Caucus of City and Municipality Managers, talking to us this morning about the smart city concept. You've heard from him. There are pipeline projects actually to align Kisumu towards the smart city concept. This conversation will continue another time, but for now we are due for the yet another segment of the Good Morning Kenya, and I know my colleague Vivian Degwa is ready for you with the family check. Vivian, if you can hear me. It is time for family check. Take it away.
All right, thank you so very much for that amazing conversation that you are just from having. And as you've put it, it is officially time for Family Check. Yes, it is that time. And I had mentioned at the very beginning of the show that you are allowed to be part of this conversation. We are talking about a topic that may be termed as taboo in some communities, and that is suicide. So we want to break the silence on suicide. And my question to you today is, what's the best way to address the topic of suicide? There we have it on your screens. What's the best way to address the topic of suicide? That is the question that we are asking you this morning as we try and see how to go about suicide as a topic, how to go about it, and as we also bring in the conversation on mental health and just try and demystify suicide as, you know, as this big thing that should not be talked about. In fact, it should be the opposite. It is so big that we need to start talking about it. If I may just run you through the numbers, the statistics on suicide. Over 700,000 people all over the world yearly actualize suicide. Yes, you heard that number right. 700,000 yearly around the world get to actualize suicide. And these are not the people who've just tried committing suicide, but actually actualizing it. So they have died by suicide. And bringing it back home in Kenya, according to the World Health Organization, 4 people die of suicide, or die by suicide rather, every single day right here in Kenya. So yes, as you've heard, the numbers are crazy, and it is a crisis we should get to talk about. Allow me to introduce my guests before we take a short break and then come back and get deeper into the conversation. On my immediate left, we have Clement Kemboi. Clement is a senior human rights officer at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. Welcome to the show.
Pleasure.
Right next to Clement, we have Amisa Rashid Ahmed, who is a neuropsychologist and a counseling psychologist, as well as the founder and executive director, Nivishe Foundation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, and then right next to Amisa, we have Cleopa Njiro. Cleopa Njiro is a counseling psychologist, and they will be my panelists here today, and you are also part of this panel conversation. The number to get to speak to us on that is via WhatsApp is 0716-103-301, 0716-103-301. You can talk to us. Feel open to get to talk about this as we are having an open conversation on that as we try and demystify suicide as a taboo topic. How about we take a break and then we come back and get deeper into the conversation. Don't go too far.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first.
You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Siende kuita mambo.
Kwani nini ilifanyika?
Kama Cindy angeniita, Elijah angekuwa na sisi.
Tumefanikiwa kupata 80,000.
Basema
8 ama 80,000.
Bwana Elijah. Kwa makini.
Naweza kuwa naitiwa nini huku sasa?
Ni juu ya jina.
Hallelujah! Atike. Hii ni mambo ya Mungu.
Sababu unakuanga na temptations mob, halafu mademu vaa vibaya.
Maajabu.
Nani alikuwa kwa mtego? Ngoja sawa. Na nani?
Wananitagundu wakita.
All right, and we are back on air to get to tackle this conversation that may be triggering to some but must be had. There's, while we were actually just having a conversation off air, there's a word that we should do away with completely when we're talking about people who've died by suicide, and that is the word committing suicide. And I've actually read it there as well. Committed the crime of attempted suicide. Can we begin there? You know, what are the best terms to use? He or she
transforms it from not from a mental health condition to actually looking at it from a crime perspective. So the correct term is to attempt suicide and not commit.
So for me, it actually begins not on the word suicide alone, but from most mental health. We do not the right lexicons from English to Swahili to say these are the right mental health terminologies. Even if we say committed suicide in English, we have to go away with what is the local languages that most of us speak outside the air. It's Swahili. Swahili also, it's criminalizing kujiua. It's like I have intentionally decided I want to take my life away. You see, so what is that? That is also another question that we have to look at, that apart from suicide, what are other mental health terminologies that are causing more harm, that we really need to look into ways to find the right correct lexicons that do not cause more harm, starting with the word suicide.
All right. To you, Cleopa, maybe, you know, suicide is still a taboo topic in so many communities as we speak right now, still in Kenya. Why do we still have being looked at, talk about loudly? We should be harsh tones, you know.
I would like to start by, first of all, when you have said in Kenya dying means that there are 4 families every day who are mourning, who are in pain because of losing their loved ones. So I think it's good as we start, we also go back into the whole of this year, last year, how many families have lost their loved ones through dying by suicide. So then we start asking, where are these beliefs coming from? Some of them are traditional, cultural, the way certain communities view dying by suicide. Like someone is weak, or like it's someone who has been bewitched. There are several other things when we look at our cultural religious practices. Then we also look at our Christian or Muslim. How do the churches treat and teach about dying by suicide? Then again, our constitution. And that is what now we are looking around, so that all these places, we help them to see that dying by suicide, most of the time, almost over 90% of the people who die by suicide is because they are unwell. And that's where now the whole issue of mental health comes in. And so we start helping people to also understand mental wellness. And when we have this kind of discussions, then that is the starting point of helping people to discuss anything related to mental health, and especially dying by suicide, because death carries so many things to the person, to the community. It has a lot of concept. So when we are discussing such a topic, and that's why you'll find, because of the way death is seen in our communities, death is seen. Then, talking about dying by suicide, we are also discussing death. And so that's why you'll see many people will have some limitation on what to say about suicide. But I think it's because of lack of education, lack of awareness to the stages, especially when we come to the question you had asked. I would like to say we have different stages. There is the ideation, the thinking, which many people think problems are too many, and then someone says, I'm not worthy to live. So it's just a thought. Then there is the planning. You have thoughts of dying, and then you start planning how to die. And the planning can also be accelerated by availability of what you can do in order to die fast. So there is now the attempt. They're now trying to die. And then there is that person who has attempted. By use of whatever is available, they have attempted to die. Now, all those stages are different. And that's why, as we are demystifying and talking about dying by suicide, we go through all that process.
Yeah. All right. Now, you know, with what you it just shows that we have stigma around, you know, suicide. There's so much stigma around it. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but I've heard of communities whereby if someone dies by suicide, they can't be buried during the day. They have to be buried at night. You know, there are those who, if alijinyonga, you know, before they take him down or her down from that rope, he has to be beaten. Like it's something that is there. So maybe just how does stigma around mental health and suicide in general show up in our communities?
Okay. I think to begin with, if you look at the genetics of it, what is the causation? First of all, you find that, like physical illnesses, we have the real causation of mental illnesses, and that can be environmental. You can have mental illnesses, suicide included, from the environment which you're living on. Maybe there's economic stressors and whatnot, and then there's social stressors and all those kind of things. But the most important part that people forget is the biomedical aspect. Right? So the biomedical aspect means that you have two things. You have your brain and you have your mind. Your brain is the organ inside your skull, and it produces chemicals. And then you have your mind, which is your thoughts, your behaviors and feelings. So these two have to work together. So when they are not working together, that means that we may say that you have some mental illnesses. And remember, the brain produces chemicals. So when you're looking at people who have high chances of attempting suicide, they have major depression. Depression is a mental illness. They have bipolar. Bipolar is also a mental illness, which is under mood disorders, whereby sometimes you have the depressive side and you have the high side, whereby the depressive side is actually it makes you feel signs of depressions, which can lead you to attempting suicide. And then one part that we usually forget the most is the genetics. Most mental illnesses are actually passed through generations. That is why you'll have a family, we know that in this family people have been dying by suicide. And what is the automatic thing we will say? That this family is bewitched, wamerogwa. There is something in this family, not knowing that it is generational. And you did not write a letter to your creator and say, put me in this family where this thing is. And that is where the stigma is supposed to start. And that is how we educate even religious leaders, because Kenya Kenya is highly religious, and if you look at both Islam and Christianity, some churches and mosques until now do not bury people who have died by suicide. So when they start understanding that this is an illness, just like physical illness, the way you have cancer, the way you have, it's just that you cannot see it. It is that. So when you start, because most of them assume that this is something you just want to, like you just sat down and say, life is difficult, then I go and attempt. When they know that it is biomedical, it is happening in your body, it is genetics, it's something it's out of your control, then that helps reduce the stigma, because you understand that this is out of somebody's control. How do we more of support them to manage it instead of punishing them for it? Because like you've said, even in costs, because it's at the cost line, the most prudent way that people attempt suicide is by throwing themselves into the ocean, right? But when they rescue you, they beat you up. So it's like you have, I'm assuming, physical illnesses. Let's say you have cancer, and then I find that you have cancer, and then I beat you up for having that illness. And then one of the main reasons we have stigma around mental illnesses is because it's invisible. We can't see it. And because I can't see it, I won't take it that seriously compared to me seeing a part of your body is being affected by that illness. So it goes back to our religious norms, our cultural norms, our social norms, and just understanding how we are supposed to deal with this illness instead of causing more harm to the people who have the illness.
Yeah, and even speaking of that, you know, even according to the reports that people have gotten, they involve individuals with untreated and poorly managed, you know, mental health conditions. So maybe where is the problem when it comes to this? Is it that we are not open to mental health conditions? Is it that people are not aware of them, you know, and do we even have enough facilities that are well equipped for people who have mental health conditions?
Thank you very much, Vivian. To mention that 3 years new theme under the Commemoration Day, which started in 2020, and the theme is changing the narrative. Conversation is really timely. At the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, the way we look at it is, and the steps that we have taken to change this narrative and particularly fight stigma, because from the conversation that we just had is that it is a crime. But where we are now, we have at least made some progress by looking at that section of the Penal Code, and it is section 226, which outlaws attempted suicide, and it is punishable by up to 2 years in prison. So what we did in terms of just looking at to change the societal view of suicide is to approach the court so that the court would really look at that section, whether it violates other sections of the Constitution, other articles of the Constitution. And particularly, as a commission, we were 3 petitioners in that process. The commission, Charity Muturi, who sadly passed away last year before the decision would come, and the Kenya Psychiatric Association. So our approach was, suicide is a mental health condition. Nobody just wakes up a day and tries to take their own life. So there are underlying conditions that, if they are not checked, you know, these mental health needs of an individual, which drives an individual to that extreme point of taking their lives. So looking at the numbers that you've mentioned, 700,000 globally, in Kenya, about 4 people dying every day. And the Mental Health Task Force report of 2020, and including even the suicide prevention strategy, put at the number that for every one completed suicide, there are 20 others attempting. So it is really a crisis. So together with that, and armed with those statistics and the policy directive of the government, then we went to court. We asked the court to look at it from a human rights point of view. And not just human rights, but specifically the right to health. Because Article 43 is categorical, that every person has a right to the highest attainable standard of health, including mental health. So on that basis, and looking at that section being discriminatory on persons with disabilities, because this is a person with mental health condition, and now the Mental Health Act of 2022 has categorized those people as persons with mental illness. So they are persons with disabilities.
Okay.
So
I believe they need to check on your mic in a moment. So do that. Probably to you, sir, how do we go about responsibly reporting cases of suicide? What's the best way to go about reporting these cases?
The first thing is there is what you just said that already. Like, we want to thank our government, which came up with a task force, and the task force recommended that most of the institutions, including the police, including other governments, they have a section of mental wellness and talk about mental health. And I'm privileged because there's a time I was working in a hospital setup, and I was involved in training of police commanders throughout the country, so that it starts from there. And today, I know in Kenya, even if you go to a police station to report about attempted suicide, the way you'll be treated is different from the way it was before, because there is a lot of awareness. But then it all starts from the family, from the community, from us talking about dying by suicide, and from people understanding exactly what we mean when we are talking about suicide. So suicide is not a mental illness. It's one of the symptoms. Like if you have depression, we have about 9 signs and symptoms of depression. Low energy level, lack of sleep, not eating, and among them, dying by suicide. So like for me, since I'm a psychologist, if someone comes to me and they talk like they have already given up in life, I will be picking on, have they ever thought? And that is something that has to come up for any practitioner. Have they ever had a thought of dying? So I work on that thought. Have they ever attempted? I work on that. Then I involve the family. And this is where now we need to create this awareness, so that if someone attempts to die by suicide, or someone mentioned, like nilisikia kwenda kwa baba, you know, those are statements people just say, oh, nilinaona maisha hii si mazuri. If you hear someone saying that, you need to take that person to a psychologist or a doctor and say, huyu mtu amekuwa akirudia, this person has said this thing several times. So that's how we start reporting. If at all someone has attempted, either through use of medicine or hanging with a rope, and then you cut the rope, instead of taking that person to the police, take that person to the hospital. So the reporting, there is not even reporting, is knowing anyone who mentions a word, who start giving out a gift, who start visiting people saying kwaheri. You know, simple things that people do. The moment you start seeing a relative who has been okay, sleeping a whole week, not going to work, or even you hear the change of thought, the way they are talking, because many conditions, not only depression or bipolar, even other conditions, someone can have that kind of like hallucination. You hear voices of people telling you, jump, 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 and then someone jumps. So there are many mental illnesses that can lead into dying by suicide. And then when that happens, it's not now reporting. I think it is what we do. We can call, because like now, when someone knows my number, knows our number, immediately someone tells me I'm in the top of the building, I want to jump. As a psychologist, I know what to do. I'll ask a simple question, who is in the house? The moment you ask that, that person starts thinking, there is my child. So am I going to die and leave my child? There is my parent. So that is a part of treatment. So to know the emergency numbers, and now most institutions, they have a toll-free line number. Most hospitals, they have that. So you know who you can call immediately when you see someone who has any signs of wanting to die by suicide or who has attempted to die by suicide. And I believe even when they go to the police station today in Kenya, most of the time they will not be taken to court because there is already some awareness. Because even in the police force, there is a lot of talking. In the hospital, the same thing. I want to believe everybody in Kenya today has an awareness on what to do when someone attempts suicide.
You've clearly given us the signs of someone who may be, battling mental health issues that may cause them taking, attempting to die by suicide. But maybe just, why do people, often hide that they have such thoughts, even to the people that they are very close to? You may have someone who's really loved at home. I'm not saying that people who die by suicide, I need to omit that word, commit. People who die by suicide, are people who are not loved or something like that. But why is it that we often tend to hide such thoughts from even our loved ones, people that we know, these ones love me completely, they would do anything for me, they would, go to the end of the world just for me. Maybe if, from the perspective of a psychologist, what normally happens in someone's mind to the point where they now don't feel like they can speak to anyone else, even though they know there's someone they can speak to?
So, I'll speak from the two perspective, from the neuropsychologist, the brain and the mind. And like we've discussed earlier, there's so much stigma. And and stigma is rooted with what? Our belief system. Our belief system, our religious system, our cultural views, everything that makes our identity. So if I brought up in a religious structure that say that if you attempt suicide, this is how we will punish you. And there's that, even your family will be scared of that social and religious exclusion, that family had somebody who died by suicide. So you see, with that fear of social exclusion or religious exclusion, because maybe your church is where you go and you have a community, or the mosque is where you have a community, and now they're not able to see you as they see you as somebody who has done a very grievous sin. So it goes back to, first of all, our identities. What is our religious identity and what is our belief system with suicidality? Like, how do we see suicide within? If I've been brought up fearing that, and seeing, and remember, religious usually bring in the aspect of morality. That suicide, if you try to attempt or even think of suicide, you have a moral issue. And you also have a faith or spiritual issue. So that means you're not praying enough. That means you need to be prayed on so that those demonic thoughts can come out of your mind. So if I think that I have demonic thought, and I think it is a crime, it's a moral issue, do you think I can come openly and just tell somebody that I have this issue? Because first of all, I'm struggling with this demonic thought. I'm actually punishing myself from having this thought. So how do we now start by looking at the root causes? What is our relationship between suicide with religion? If we identify with our cultures, our traditions, what is our relationship between this and this? And then also, what is the view? Because there's a lot of view when it comes to mental illnesses generally, and there's so much stigma. So even by the time we narrow down to suicidality as one of it, how do we approach it as a society? Because the statistics says that 1 out of 4 Kenyans have mental illnesses. We are 4 here, right? So that means one of us has mental illnesses. Socially, when that happens, is that we will congregate, talk together, but the moment I realize somebody, one of us, is the person who has mental illness, the attitude starts shifting. So I'll be scared actually to start speaking, because you start treating me differently. You start, and then there's that, like, you're not okay, mwenda wazimu, you're mad, those terminologies that we use. And then the other issue is we see suicide as an individual issue instead of systemic issue. Yes, suicide ideation, attempting, all this is happening at an individual level, but the causation of it, we have to look at the systematic issue. If I do not have a home, I feel hopeless. That means that it can be an issue, the social justice issue that causes suicide. If I've not eaten, and then you're telling me to come for therapy, food is the priority, right? If I do not have, if I've not been brought up, I've been brought up in a very volatile toxic, violent environment, I'll have high chances of having suicidal thoughts. So all these kind of things that I'm thinking about, it's forming my reality and my identity. So how do we also come to the fact and identify that when somebody is, that it is a social responsibility, it's not an individual. So if somebody has an issue, instead of treating it as an individual issue, how do we also have the systemic issue? The question that you asked earlier on, do we have enough hospitals? A counselor here said that there is the first aid that you can do, but how, even if you do the first aid, we may be aware, but not a lot of people are aware of the first aid. And then, unfortunately, the number that we've mentioned is not the right number, because that is the only documented number. Most of the time we hide, because if I know my church or my mosque is not going to pray for or bury the person in my family who has died by suicide, I'll come up with another excuse. They say it's long-term illness or something to avoid the number. So we do not have the correct number of individuals attempting or dying by suicide.
So it's undocumented.
Undocumented. So if we do not have that, it's also hard to come up with policies, to come out with good strategies to prevent it, because I'll just use the number that is available instead of the real available causation numbers.
All right. Okay, remember you can get to be part and parcel of this conversation. You can send in your messages via WhatsApp. The number is 0716-103-301. You're also allowed to call in live and get to talk to us about this. What's your take on suicide, and how should we go about, speaking about suicide? I may read a message right here. Someone is saying, in life, people are really stressed, especially married people and single parenting parents. People struggle to speak because there's this belief that people should not speak the inside stress to outsiders. This has made people to take their own secret decisions. That is Joshua Nkomo. You can also send in your messages so that we get to hear from you. Now, to you, sir, as we're talking about this and looking at all the ways possible to try and demystify suicide as a taboo, and also just try and look at the best ways to curb this number and reduce them, maybe what changes, when we talk now about prevention, what changes should we come up with, generally, even when it comes to matters policies, what changes should be put in place, even matters our systems out here, our healthcare systems, what should be put in place in order for us to curb this number?
Thank you very much, Vivian. I think Amis has mentioned that it is more structural than individual. And the point that we'd like to make as a commission is that when we approach the court to decriminalize attempted suicide, we were dealing with one aspect of the structural aspect of suicide, which is the legislative obstacle that was there. Because if it is a crime, then it means people cannot come out and speak and seek help. So that is what we tried and deal with it when we went to court. But now, yes, we have that decision. It is with us that it is no longer a crime. So what we're asking people is, come out. If you experience those crises that pushes you to those extremes, you can seek for help and no one will judge you. But we need to put in place structures so that we move from just having good policies in place to where actually people can access help. And the push has been, and it is even in the Mental Health Act, that can we have community mental health structures in place? Can those services be accessed at the community level? How are we integrating, for instance, Taifa Care with mental health services? Can somebody just go to, say, a dispensary and meet a professional and speak to? And that calls for investment. And I'm happy to note, even as a commission, that the mental health investment case of 2021, it put some statistics that, yes, there is a productivity loss when it comes to mental health conditions. But with the right investments from both private and public, government and the private sector, we can realize a return on investment over double. Say, for instance, if you spend 80 billion to cure, educate communities, those preventive aspects, you can realize a double return on that. So we are calling for enhanced investment on matters mental health, because I don't think the numbers have changed. Because when the task force was laying out its report, then the investment on mental health was paltry 0.001%. So you see, we're already talking about a crisis.
Yeah.
But what are we putting in so that we realize, or rather we address some of these interventions? So with that investment, we're able to get community mental health services, professionals in place they can speak to, and also track these numbers. Because earlier on I talked about it being, when it is a crime, then people don't turn up. And during one of our engagements, for instance, on matter suicide, you realize that many insurance service providers, they exclude attempted suicide from their cover. So that means if you go seek somebody who has attempted suicide and it is non-fatal, and they are going to seek medical services, the doctor, the prescribing doctor, the consultant will try and hide, so that in the end the insurer will pay. But if it is mentioned attempted suicide, then that is excluded. So who takes care of? So it is a whole conversation that we should have, both from policy aspect and the practical aspect of it, making sure that indeed these services are accessible at the community level. We are able to, say, for instance, track these numbers systematically so that there is factual reporting.
Yeah.
Even if we are talking about responsible media reporting, but what numbers are we reporting? Are we under-reporting? Are we over-reporting? So what is the factual? And I think at this point also it is to note that even with decriminalization, it doesn't mean that we are going to see these numbers, going up. We will actually now address the issue factually, because cases will now start coming in. Reporting structures will be there. Experts like Cleopa and Amisa will be able to now see these people and report the cases as they are. So that is what we're asking for.
Okay. And now, with technology, things have actually, I don't know if I should say gotten worse. But there was a case, not in Kenya, where someone was suing one of the sites because apparently their loved one used technology or asking questions on how they can go about, taking their life, and they got the easier way out, if I may say so. So when it comes to such, maybe how or what can help, when someone is going through dark moments? What is the best way to go about it? When I've gotten to a point where I feel hope is lost for me, I need to end my life. There's nothing much that is out there for me. This is just it. Probably there's someone who's watching this show right now and they are in that space of their life right now. What would you say to such a person?
I think you have brought in a very important thing, and that's what all of us were saying. There is a right thing for everything. If you are sick, and I want to go back into history a little bit. For me, I know there is a time that even physical illness, people used to get very sick until night when people go looking for a car. Today, people are aware of physical illness. But now when it comes to mental illness, that awareness may be lacking. That's why people are waiting until they are very sick to be seen by a doctor or a psychologist. So the first step is let people get aware of the signs and symptoms and when to go and seek help. The second thing is how now to deal with all these things, like what he has just alluded to. I go back into history, and Kenya, we are already fortunate because we had HIV/AIDS and the disaster. And there were several things that were put in place. Every government ministry, every corporation, the hospitals, they are under place for a counselor. So everything was put in place. Right now, where we are in mental health, that's the same thing, the efforts that need to be done so that we can go there. Now, you have touched a very important thing that is coming up with technology. And I'm fortunate because I've been working in telecommunication industry. And so I was there from landline to automatic, to telephony. So I am already there. And now we are into AI, artificial intelligence, where someone is waking up in the morning and saying, I'm feeling low, what should I do?
Yes.
Now, this is not a human being. This is a robot, and they will not have feelings. So if you are feeling sad, if you are feeling down, if you are not eating, if you are not sleeping, if you are having loss of memory, concentration, you need to talk to a person. Because when you come to me, I will be able to reason to some of the things that the machine cannot reason. That other people on WhatsApp, you may have a WhatsApp group and you are able to communicate to each other, but those people are not seeing you, or they are not trained. Because to be a therapist, to be a counselor, you go through training. Like for us, I am sure Madam will also say that for you in Kenya today to practice, you need a license. And the license, you need to produce a diploma or a degree. When you are going through a diploma, degree, master's, PhD, you are helped to be able to see someone, and by the time I'm seeing you, I've made 70% of the diagnosis. And I have tools. There are questions I can ask you. I can even give you some assessment tools that will tell me that you have depression. And a part of it, there will be the question of suicide. So, relying on online platforms, even asking people who have not been trained. So the process is those people who have received training, the government need to invest on them. I'm fortunate because I started training when there were only 2 or 3 institutions in Kenya training psychologists and counselors. Today in all our universities, there is already a faculty of training people in counseling psychology. And then in the government, it's just recently that counselors were starting to get involved and employed. So that need also to increase. Then people coming to see us, even those who are in private practice like me, or it is something that people need to now start getting aware of. It's worth it to invest a few shillings to see a therapist who is trained in his office, other than to wait until we are mourning because someone has died by suicide. So looking at the value of going to see a counselor, the way you'd see to a private doctor's office, going to a private counselor's office and paying for those services is the same, because you are saving a lot. And then that is at community level, individual levels, family level, that the families can invest. And then there is another crisis that is together with the suicide, dying by suicide, alcohol. Addictions. The moment you see someone getting into addiction, it's because there is something that has gone through in their life. Either stress, either a traumatic experience, all those factors, or even the mind, the way she talked about chemical imbalance. So the factors that can lead people into addictions, either weed, alcohol, and all those, you can imagine someone who is using alcohol and already overused alcohol, that person cannot make decisions. So when the voice comes, die, they will very easily die. So we have to have a concerted effort for all these things, so that there is investment from the government, investment from family level, because even at family level, you see people can now come to us and seek our services. And we have so many psychologists and counselors who today they are waiting to be given work by the families, by the institute, even hospitals. Like now already we have hospitals who already have counselors on board, which is quite commendable. So we need to encourage that.
All right. Let me read some of the messages as we come to a conclusion of this conversation. Someone is asking, how do we start talking about an issue that has been regarded as taboo in our culture? That is Winfred from Hispania. They're wondering, how do we even start talking about this issue? It's already a taboo. Another one is saying, kila mtu anatupea pressure, from siasa, parents, family members to our church leaders, but when it comes to opening up, how ndio wa kwanza kusema tuende tuongee? Another one is saying, thanks to KNCHR for pushing the issue of suicide not being a crime. This will give us a chance for us to air our issues openly without fear. That is Wanderi, who's watching from Kericho. One more right here as we wind up. Good morning. I was in such a situation some years back in 2022 when I was working at JKIA, and I happened to meet Dr. Cleopa when he was working at the Chiromo group of hospitals. I thank God I came out of the situation. I'm now a wellness champion, trying to help others in the same situation. That is Raymond from Kenya Airports Authority, Malindi Airport. That's a good one. Yeah. So we need to finish. Maybe just our final remarks. Maybe one can give on if you are a loved one of someone that you've already seen all these symptoms of them being suicidal, maybe what's the best step to go about it as we give your final remarks? I can start with you.
So I think when the first thing that Dr. Cleo mentioned is when you are in such a situation, do you know a professional? And the good thing is nowadays we have a lot of mental health champions. At least I know, because at Nivisha Foundation, we run a whole fellowship, fully funded, whereby we bring young Kenyans together and we teach them about mental health. And we actually center it within the African context. Because even when it comes to mental health knowledge, it's usually Euro-American. We borrow all their things like, but what is that local local way of dealing with our issues when we are not borrowing everything from them? And also one thing that I usually say is, how do we also bring older people? Because one thing that colonization did to us, it actually was so violent that it took away our knowledge. So we have to go back to our grandparents, our elders, in matters of mental health and learn from them. Because in our pre-colonial African, we were not punishing people or beating them up when they attempt suicide. So what is that thing that we can learn from our elders when it comes to matters of mental health? So as much as we can, and we are happy that we're having this conversation, use every opportunity to champion mental health cause, but also leaning into the conversation and trying to put your voice in whichever space that you are in.
All right. Okay, your final remarks, Cleopa.
Thank you. Mine is family, is community. Let us, all of us, support each other, from stress management to when someone voices that they feel like they want to die by suicide. Thank you.
All right. Okay, and your final remarks.
For me, I think is to tell viewers that now with decriminalization of suicide, the law and policies are on their side. So let them not fear to come out and seek help. Thank you.
All right, there's one more question here. You are having an important talk, but my question is, someone isn't employed or has no income. How can they afford to see a therapist that costs more than 3,000 a session? Make it free and it will work. Maybe this is a good one actually to wind up on. Are there any helplines that we can give to our viewers right now? Are there spaces where therapy is free? Because not everyone can afford even 1,000 bob per session. So if there are such places, if we can just talk about
the first thing is anyone who is in the helping profession. A doctor, one of the things is to harm and always to be there to help people. So anyone who comes to my office, even if I'm saying a charge and you don't have money, we shall look for ways of supporting you. And you cannot, and it's against the law for us not to give services. But then for helplines, if they just check, there are several others. It's only that I don't like. I know Chiromo Hospital Group, they have a hotline. Kenya Association of Professional Counselors, they have a hotline. It's only that I can't remember them. But if you type, you'll get all the institutions. They have a toll-free line number, and then there are institutions like Kenya Red Cross. All there, if you call and you are in the crisis, they will know who to connect you to, and we all work with them, and they have a way of assisting.
All right, one last one. I've said last one a couple of times, but this one really, share with me the contacts or organizations.
So mine is Nivisha. You go online, you just type Nivisha Foundation media platform, and we offer affordable. But also the thing about we really need to have that candid conversation is, now if you are cut here right now, see a doctor, because that's something you can to give whichever amount. What will you do? Because it's visible. But the these people just assume that I'm going to talk to a counselor. They don't see that that is an actual harm. Another example is if you have a serious physical illness like cancer, contribute for you to get the support. But mental illness, which sometimes the medications are if I won't even reach out to people to support me because so most of the time we hear people asking, but they do not actually give it the that this thing is actually more easy to help. So we need to prioritize it. We offer affordable, not free, affordable, send your way like Dr. Ria said, and all our foundation.
There we have it, and this is conversation. Thank you so much, gentleman and lady, for
my contact is
very quickly
0721 356 549.
All right, there you have it. That is this number, and this is where we end this conversation. Thank you so much has been part of this conversation, and thank you to our panelists today. My colleagues are on the other end, Mike and Victor. Maybe as we just wind up, you know, what's the best way to address the topic of suicide, according to you? Oh, Victor.
I like that discussion because, you know, I like the way you started it all. That talking about suicide is somewhat sounds like a taboo. That when someone is having that thought is a taboo. But you know, the experts say that when someone attempts to commit, I don't know whether I got it right.
It's wrong to use the word commit.
Exactly.
It's attempted death by suicide.
Yes. That person should not be taken to the police. I know it's a criminal offense. Actually, taking your own life is, even God himself doesn't want that. All right? So if you want to take your own life, then I think the best thing to do is to get into the root cause of the problem. I have a question probably. So if someone says that he's attempting or she's attempting, and the situation is because I don't have a job, why not solve that problem of, if you have an opportunity somewhere, get that person a source of income? If that is going to solve a problem. I know that one can be any cause of, you know, mental disorder, pressure from the society, drug and substance abuse, etc., etc. And I think a majority of Kenyans should be enlightened that the moment you take your own life, you have not solved a problem. You have left your kinsmen with a lot of shame, and that trauma will live with them for the longest. So I think that's a good discussion, which I think should also be continuing online and even our platforms. And I know your guests have given their contacts out there. All right. So on this end, today we are talking about 3 years of Kenya Kwanza administration, and to the fourth one, I think today wraps up that discussion. And to the administration, the best thing that can happen is just to keep on pushing and give Kenyans the promises that you made during the manifesto, during elections and campaigns. And that is the only way to grow this country. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Victor Lo. Until tomorrow. Vivian?
All right. My name is Vivian Dago. Until tomorrow, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Father, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I release your mighty power and anointing over this team of Kenya that is going to participate in the World Championship. Lord, I prophesy that you are going to protect them from every injuries. My Father, I pray that they are going to conquer the world. As we used to conquer the world, let the team bring more mentors than ever. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
He prays fervently for the success of Kenya's sportsmen and women in their current and future undertakings, knowing too well what it takes to triumph in the face of adversity. Meet Cosmas and Deti, and who ruled the Boston Marathon from 1993 to 1999, and dine with the high and mighty.
Since Boston is the first marathon and it's very famous, winning the Boston Marathon is like you are on the top of the world.
He never knew as a little boy that he'd become famous until he started running.
Oh, I started my running when I was in primary school, when I was in class 6. I used to go to school about 3 kilometers away from my home. That's where I used to go to in primary school. And I used to compete from sub-zone to zone to divisionals. When I was in primary, I went up to district level. Then 1986, I went to secondary school, whereby the first time, because it was a day school, and that school had already, it was starting, so it was only Form 1s. The first time we went for the cross country and we had no teacher. It's only students which we took ourselves to the competition. I managed to be number 2. We went to divisionals. There was no teacher. There was no coach. I was still number 2. But at the district level, I was defeated, so I could not continue. 1987, when I was in Form 2, now we had a coach. And then I went up to district level.
And like most Kenyan athletes, his first breakthrough came in the world of cross-country.
88, we managed to go to the national level and the international competition, whereby we qualified for World Cross Country, whereby we went to New Zealand. I won a silver medal in junior category. After that, in 1989, I didn't qualify. After school, 1990, I qualified for athletics, junior athletics championship, whereby we went to Bulgaria. I ran the road race, 20 kilometers. I went to the road race, I broke the course record and also the world record for the junior. I set a new record.
He could not resist the road where he found his fame.
My first marathon was 1992 in Hawaii, America, whereby I finished second. Then 1993 is when I was, the race director of Boston spotted me when I was in Honolulu. Then I was invited for Boston Marathon.
Most notable was the Boston Marathon, where he conquered not once but thrice in a row, with the best marathon performance in 1994, where he set a course record of 2 hours, 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
When I went for the Boston Marathon, that was my first international race, whereby I won the race. I was the second Kenyan to win this race. The first one was Ibrahim Hussein, who had won the race 2 times. And I went there, I won the race, the second Kenyan, whereby 1993, 94, I set the course record, which had been there for 8 years. It had been with somebody from Australia, was called Rob de Castella, which was 207.56. I broke the course record to 207.57.